What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to do a full story video. A full story video is when I sit down and take a bunch of videos that tell one overarching story and combine them together into one big video. Now, today's full story video is going to be about Knightfall. Knightfall was one of the biggest Batman events of all time. Really, one of the biggest DC events of all time, because you were talking about the idea of getting rid of Bruce Wayne Batman and bringing in somebody else to replace him. And of course, that would be John Paul Valley. We also see John Paul being able to take down the newest villain around that time, better known as Bane. And so yes, this was the big event where you see Batman getting his back broken, being replaced, and having John Paul Valley step up and being able to take down Bane. Here is the complete story of Batman Knightfall. I do hope you enjoy. All right, guys, so we are here. We have finally arrived into Knightfall. And man, let me tell you, it is one heck of a start for us. So we're going to start with Batman number 491, technically the first chapter to Knightfall. And then we dive into Knightfall properly with 492 for Batman. Now, in the opening pages for this story arc, we pick up with Bane and his crew. Now, we do see them heading over to an armory, and this is kind of similar to what we saw in the earlier parts of our coverage over Knightfall when it came to the preludes, where you had the general going out of his way to break into an armory to steal a bunch of weapons. And for Bane, he's doing the same exact thing. Now, some of the weapons he is going to keep, but most of the weapons he is going to hand out to other people so that they can use those weapons to cause chaos across Gotham. And word gets out very quickly to the GCPD that one of the armories in Gotham City has been attacked and has been completely robbed of all the advanced weapons kept inside of that armory. And so for Jim Gordon, Renee Montoya, and also Bullock, they're kind of wondering what to do here and most likely trying to figure out who in the world went out of their way to steal all those weapons. But like I said, their main concern is what are they going to do with all those weapons? Now, getting back over to Bane, we see Bane basically sitting down saying, okay, you know what? It's time for me to go ahead and attack Arkham Asylum. Now, his main goal is to let out all of the prisoners, to allow them to cause chaos across Gotham City. But he realized that he needs somebody to lead that chaos for him. And the best person to do that is, of course, the Joker. Now, we jump over to Arkham Asylum, but we pick up with Jeremiah Arkham. Now, when it comes to Jeremiah Arkham, he's the man in charge of the entire asylum. But this man right now is kind of worried about the idea that he's now beginning to go insane, that he feels like he's been infected by the inmates inside his asylum, like the Joker and other characters who are almost crazy as the Joker. Now, when it comes to Jeremiah, he's going to be somewhat important in these next few issues for Batman comics. Now, when it comes to Bane, he does arrive at the asylum. And here's the thing, when it comes to Bane and his crew, they attack different parts of Arkham Asylum for different kinds of reasons. So for example, one attack was to begin the process of opening up the cells to allow the prisoners to escape. Another attack was to take out some of the guards to make it easier for the prisoners to escape. Now, when it comes to the Joker though, the Joker does get free. But for the Joker, he's kind of like, listen, before I am able to lead this riot, I have to go after somebody else. And him and I gotta have a conversation. And for the Joker, that would be Jeremiah Arkham. Now, when it comes to Batman, he does know what is happening at Arkham Asylum. Now, you would think, okay, Bruce gonna call in Robin and also Azrael to handle this problem. But for Bruce, he's going in alone. Now, when it comes to Knightfall, really, when it came to the preludes that led into Knightfall, it really did establish the point that when it comes to Bruce Wayne, this man is exhausted. This man is mentally and physically drained. But the problem is, he cannot rest properly. And so because of that, he is unable to let his mind and body heal properly. And so when he calls up Robin, Tim Drake, he said, hey, listen, I'm already here at the asylum. I'm about to go in. Now for Robin, he's all like, you need backup. But Batman says, no, I'm going in alone. And Robin knows that is a bad idea because Bruce is still not completely healed up yet. But Bruce still believes that he's the only person who can protect Gotham, that he has to be Batman day in and day out. And so he goes in. Now, when it comes to Batman, when he does go inside Arkham Asylum, Bane is there. Bane is watching him. And matter of fact, you have Bane say, Batman is going to fail. And here is the reason why. Because he is going to go out of his way to make sure that the innocent people are okay first, rather than taking care of his enemies. That should be his first priority. But unfortunately, he got it backwards. And so Bane believes that Batman is going to fail. Now, when it comes to the Joker, though, the Joker found Jeremiah. And matter of fact, you had the Joker put Jeremiah in some kind of setup where there is a wire tied around the neck of Jeremiah. If he moves a certain kind of way, that wire is going to pull a trigger to a gun that's pointed right now at the head of Jeremiah. It's just the Joker continuing to torture Jeremiah, to bring down his mental health. And let's not forget that this man was just saying a moment ago that he feels like he is going insane because he has been inside this asylum with all these different patients. Now, the GCPD, they are there, but unfortunately, they can't do anything at all. And the reason why? Because Bane gave all the inmates the weapons that he stole earlier. And so those weapons are being used against the GCPD. They are technically stuck outside and surrounding the building. And really, most of the inmates are now beginning to be able to get away because their weapons are just taking out officers left and right. Now, when it comes to Jim Gordon, he did go meet up with the mayor. Now, when it comes to the mayor, his name is Mayor Kroll. Now, when it comes to Kroll, his main thing is law and order. And so he is okay with the idea of telling the GCPD to go ahead and kill off the inmates. Now, for Jim, that is not okay at all. The only time an officer should kill somebody when they're trying to protect themselves. But this is the mayor saying, honestly, Jim, it's one of those moments right now where your men are out there fighting against guys who have advanced weapons. Right now, they should use their weapons to take down the inmates to save their lives. And really, the rest of Batman number 491 is just everything falling apart for Batman, Jim Gordon, and the GCPD, because you have Bane reappear with his crew, and they're firing missiles everywhere, taking out officers everywhere to allow the inmates to escape back into the city. Now, for Batman inside, by the time he gets over to the Joker, or where Jeremiah is at, the Joker is gone. The Joker has now made it back to the city as well. And so you have Batman go out of his way to save Jeremiah's life, yes, but now the Joker has gotten away. And that is why Bane said, Batman is going to fail, because his main goal is to worry about the innocent people first, rather than taking out his enemies first. Now, word does get back over to Jim Gordon, and he finds out that, hey, we lost some officers, but also most of the inmates, including the Joker, were able to make it back to the city. It's going to be chaos across the city. And now this is Jim saying, oh my God, what have I done? Like, he believes now that he should have taken the advice of the mayor and told his men, hey, use your guns to kill off the inmates, because now those inmates are going to run free across Gotham. The Joker is going to run free across Gotham. But now we jump into Batman number 492, where now we pick up with the Mad Hatter. Now, when it comes to the Mad Hatter, he is the first person to go up against Batman. One of the first inmates, the major inmates, to go up against Batman. So we see him going out of his way to break out a monkey that he's very close to. But this man got some plans coming up very soon for Batman and Robin. But now getting over to Batman and Robin, we see them in the Batcave. Now, with them being in the Batcave, they're looking over a list of different characters that had escaped from Arkham Asylum, like Two-Face, the Joker, Mad Hatter, Film Freak, Poison Ivy, and the list goes on and on and on. They're all out there causing mayhem across Gotham. Now for Batman, he's wondering who in the world did this. Now for Tim Drake, he says it has to be Bane, because remember, Tim met Bane before the actual Knightfall event, but Bane said, I don't want anything from you or Azrael. I only want the real Batman, Bruce Wayne. And so he left. And so for Tim, he's saying it has to be that Bane guy I told you about. He's out there trying to come at you. But either way, Batman and Robin, they leave the Batcave to begin the plan to bring down all these different enemies. Now, when it comes to Mad Hatter, we see him driving around and around Gotham over and over again, but the same area of Gotham, because he realized that he's being followed by some kind of bird. Really, it's a hawk. Now, he told his monkey to go out of its way to grab the bird and bring it over to him. Now, when it comes to the monkey, it does it. Now, the bird actually belongs to a character known as Bird, and Bird works for Bane. And Bane told his crew, hey, I need you guys to go out there and observe all the different villains of Batman to gather notes about them. But also, if you see Batman going up against them, watch Batman fight against him. Gather more data about him and his rogue gallery. Now, getting back over to Mad Hatter, once he realized the bird's being tracked by somebody else, he put something on the bird and let the bird go to fly back over to, well, the bird character. Now, when it comes to the GCPD, they're trying their best to figure out who in the world broke out all those different inmates. You have Bullock and Renee just trying their best to figure out who it could possibly be and what is their MO. But the problem is they realize that this breakout could just be a random breakout, a smokescreen to keep the GCPD busy long enough while the main bad guy, of course Bane, does something else. And really, we already know what that is, to go after Batman, to keep Batman and the GCPD occupied with all these different enemies just running across Gotham. But bodies are dropping already in the early parts of this event. Now for Batman and Robin, they do find a note that was left behind by the Mad Hatter from a hat store. And once you have Batman find the note, he realized that he has been invited to a tea party. And really, it's just the Mad Hatter saying, come to where I'm at and let's go at it once again. And hopefully this time I will take you out. Now, we jump over to the Mad Hatter and we see that he has thrown a tea party before the one he has for Batman and Robin coming up very soon. Now, when it comes to this tea party, we see the Mad Hatter had invited all these different people who were also able to escape from Arkham Asylum, like a character known as Film Freak. Now, when it comes to Film Freak, he is a D-list character. This guy would commit crimes where he was able to reenact the crimes that he saw in different movies that he loved while growing up, or different movies that he had appeared in when he was an actor. Now, of course, Batman was able to take him down very easily. Now, when it comes to the Mad Hatter, he invited all these inmates to this tea party, but he gave each one a hat to wear. Now, For these guys, they have no idea that inside the hat is some kind of tech that Mad Hatter had put inside them to allow him to take over their minds. And so when you have each person put on the hat, bam, just like that, he now has the ability to take over their minds, which he does. Now, when it comes to Film Freak, he's also included in the idea of having his mind taken over. Now, when it comes to the Mad Hatter, he says, listen, I need to know who was watching me earlier. Who in the world was trying to follow me around Gotham City? And so he tells Film Freak, take this device. It should lead you right back to the person who was following me earlier. And once you learn who that is, call me and tell me so him and I can have a conversation. Now, once you have Batman and Robin arrive at the tea party, you have Batman begin to question Mad Hatter because he believes the Mad Hatter is working alongside with Bane. Now, here's the thing. No one knows about who Bane is. Matter of fact, when it came to all the inmates, all they knew was they saw freedom and they dipped out. No one knew who broke them out. And so for the Mad Hatter, he's all like, who's this Bane person that you keep missioning? Now, when it comes to Film Freak, he does arrive at the hotel that Bane is hiding in. Now, Bane sees Film Freak walking up and he realizes that he needs to take out Film Freak. And so while you have Film Freak and also the Mad Hatter on the phone together, well, you have Bane begin to beat down on Film Freak. And the Mad Hatter and Batman, they can hear this happening right now. Now you have Batman begin the process to bring down the Mad Hatter. But let's not forget that there were other inmates there earlier that he is currently controlling. And so you have the Mad Hatter tell them, hey, I need you guys to attack Batman right now. Like, bring this man down now. Now, you do have Robin jump in to help out Batman, but by the time you have Batman and Robin be able to take down the Mad Hatter, on the other side of that phone call, Film Freak is dead. Bane has killed that man easily. And Bane says like, hey, I'm coming for you next, Batman, and really anybody else who tries to come at me. And so it really shows that Bane is somebody you don't want to mess with at all. Now, the next chapter that we have to talk about takes place in Detective Comics number 659. Now, this time, we're going to see Batman and Robin go up against two characters, the ventriloquist and also Amygdala. And I really hope I pronounced that word correctly. I sat here for a while trying my best to pronounce that word correctly, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to call him by his real name, which is Aaron Helsinger, which for me, that sounds so much cooler. Now, when it comes to Aaron, he was actually in Arkham Asylum because he had a lot of episodes where he would just go on a rampage. And so when he arrived at the asylum, their main goal was to remove part of his brain that they believed that caused the episodes of him going on rampages. The problem was it caused him to have even more episodes where he would just go on a rampage for unknown reasons, trying to attack different people. Now, we do pick up the two characters right now, escaping Arkham Asylum. Now, when it comes to the ventriloquist, his main goal is to find Scarface. And so you have Aaron agree to help him find Scarface, and you have the ventriloquist agree to help out Aaron to find the meds to make sure that he does not have another episode. Now, that took place on the previous night where you have Bane release all the inmates from Arkham Asylum. Now, it's the following night, and we pick up with Batman and Robin finding the dead body to Film Freak. Now, remember, Film Freak was beaten down by Bane in the last chapter. And so for Batman, when he does look over the body, he realized that Bane beat this man to death, like literally used his own hands to beat the man to death. Now for Robin, he is very disgusted in what he's seeing when it comes to the body of Film Freak. But you do have Batman and Robin leave, and the reason why? The police arrive. Now, when it comes to this police unit, you do have one officer that we're going to see over and over again, and that would be Lieutenant Kitch. And when it comes to Kitch, he is trying his best to help out the GCPD catch all these inmates and bring them back over to Arkham Asylum. But now we jump over to Dr. Simpson. Now, when it comes to Simpson, he actually worked at Arkham Asylum. And right now he's being interviewed by one of the reporters who's talking about what's happening across Arkham. And he says, listen, when it comes to the inmates, they are misunderstood. The idea that a lot of people believe that they are actually insane is pretty wild. They're not insane. They're just misunderstood. And really, they should be scared of us, not us being scared of them. Even though these same inmates that he is talking about have killed a few people across Gotham City. But now we have to jump back over to Aaron and also the ventriloquist. Now, when they arrive at a bar nearby, they begin to ask all the guys in the bar, have they seen Scarface, the usual doll that the ventriloquist usually talks through. But the problem is, when he walks into the bar, he is talking through a sock, and they begin to make fun of him. Now, when Aaron walks in, he instantly gets upset because, again, this is a guy who has a lot of episodes where he just goes on a rampage. And so when he sees a bunch of guys right now laughing at his new friend, he goes crazy and he begins to take every single person down in that bar. But after doing that, he then calms back down again and they leave the bar to continue to hopefully find Scarface. And so they head over to a nearby toy shop. Now, when they arrive in that toy shop, the alarms go off and Batman and Robin head straight over there. Now, once they do arrive, you have Batman tell Robin once again, stay out here while I go inside to deal with the bad guys. Now for Tim, he is very worried for Bruce because he knows that Bruce has not gotten the proper rest that he needs to continue on. But on top of that, they have no idea what is happening inside. But for Batman, he believes that he knows everything. And so he goes in by himself. Except when he does get inside, he is confronted by the ventriloquist, but then ambushed from behind by Aaron. Now, when it comes to Aaron, he is pretty strong and could be an actual challenge for Batman. And at first, we're left to believe that Batman might actually fail bringing down these two guys. Now, when it comes to Robin, he realized that they have been followed for the last few blocks now by the same two Hawks, which means the owner of the Hawks have to be nearby. And so you have Robin being able to sneak up from behind on Bird, the same guy we saw earlier that works for Bane. Now, when it comes to Robin, he does try his best to bring down Bird, but Bird is able to get the upper hand on Robin. Now, when it comes to Robin, he gets very lucky that Bane tells Bird, leave him alone. I want nothing to do with that guy right there. My main goal is Batman. As a matter of fact, I have a new job for you. So leave right now. And you have Bird leave. And so for Robin, it kind of sucks that he was not able to bring the guy down. Now, really, this chapter wraps up with Batman being able to bring down both characters and now go on his way to find other inmates in Gotham City. Now, when he does get outside, he realized that Robin is missing. But at least we all know that Robin is okay, but Robin did get a beat down from Bird earlier. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So in our next Knightfall video, we're going to see Batman going up against Scarecrow, but we're also going to see Killer Croc coming back for another round against, well, Bane. Because remember, Bane did break the arm of Killer Croc in our previous video when it came to preludes leading into Knightfall. But either way, guys, this What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over Batman Knightfall. Now remember, when it comes to Knightfall, it's all about the idea that Bane wants to break the bat. And so what he did was he went out of his way to break out all the inmates from Arkham Asylum. They're all right now just running free across Gotham City to cause chaos. But the reason why he did that is a way to push Batman to his limits, physically and mentally. And once you have Batman reach that certain point, then Bane is going to move in to break the bat. Now, by this point in our coverage over Knightfall, Batman is really dealing more with the low tier bad guys, not the high tier bad guys. But the high tier ones are beginning to make their moves, like Scarecrow and the Joker. Now, in this video, we're going to see Joker and Scarecrow begin to make their moves on Gotham City. But we also going to see Killer Croc wanting to get revenge against Bane. Because let's not forget that in the preludes that led into Knightfall, Killer Croc got his arm broken by Bane. And so in this video, it's Croc saying, nah man, it's time for me to get some payback. And so we're going to see Bane versus Killer Croc round 2, while you have Scarecrow and Joker begin to make their moves. And for Batman, he has to take down Victor Zsasz as well. Now, like I said earlier in this video, Batman is physically and mentally drained, but he's trying his best to just carry on to take down his rogue gallery. So in the opening pages of Batman number 493, we do see Batman right now driving the Batmobile to his next target, which is going to be Victor Zsasz. Now, while you have Batman driving over there, he realized that this is not going to be an easy task, because even though he already taken down at least 3 out of 4 people who have broken out of Arkham Asylum, there are still so many out there and he's completely out of energy. Now, when it comes to Victor Zsasz, he's one of the many serial killers in Gotham City. But when it comes to Victor Zsasz, every single time he kills somebody off, he will mark his skin with a tally mark. And so over his entire body, he has all these different tally marks to remind him and others how many people that he has killed over the years. Now, when it comes to Victor, we see that he has completely taken over a school for women, a school for girls. And so right now, it is a hostage situation. You have police officers outside right now trying to figure out what are they going to do to save those girls from the hands of Victor Zsasz. Because if he kills them, he is, 1, going to enjoy it, but 2, mark his skin for each of the girls that he kills off. Now, one of the many officers that we are going to focus on in this Knightfall event is a character known as Lieutenant Kitch. Now, when it comes to Kitch, he's trying his best to handle this whole entire situation involving Victor Zsasz. As a matter of fact, he thought it would be a good idea to send in an officer to bring down a guy like Victor Zsasz, but to also save the young girls. But here's the problem though. You see, when it comes to the GCPD, they don't have any radios that allow someone to sneak into a building, but to at least call back to people outside of the building. And so the officer who's in there right now has no way of contacting the outside team. But on top of that, he has not returned at all. And so for Kitch, he believes that Victor Zsasz most likely killed off that officer. Now, another one does appear, and apparently he has the right gear for this job. He says, listen, I'll go inside, I'll stay quiet, but I make sure to hit my button multiple times to let you know that I'm perfectly okay. But my main goal is to find a missing officer and then save the young girls, and then hopefully stop Victor as well. But that plan goes straight out the window, because once you have the second officer go inside, he finds the first officer and, well, he's dead. He got his throat split open, and then Zsasz appears right behind the second officer to take him out as well. Now I want to jump over to Bane, and the reason why, because you have Bane right now watching the news about the whole entire situation. Now, for Bane, he's wondering, how is Batman going to handle this kind of situation? Now, for Bane, he has Bird there to observe the scene live. Now, when it comes to Bird, who does work for Bane, he does tell Bane, I feel like it's time to bring down Batman now. And here is the reason why. Because I feel like Batman is overrated. What grown man has a sidekick that is a child to help him take down his different enemies? Now for Bane, he says no. Batman is not ready yet to be broken. And the reason why, because yes, Batman may be physically drained, but for me personally, he's not mentally drained just yet. That mind is strong. It's what's right now carrying him to keep fighting against his different enemies. Now, when it comes to Victor Zsasz, he told the police at the very beginning of this whole entire situation that if they send anybody in there at all, he was going to begin to kill off the different girls that he's currently holding hostage right now in that building. And so he is very upset about the idea that they had sent in 2 officers hoping to bring him down. And so he throws both their dead bodies out the window and right in front of the GCPD. Now, luckily for the police, Batman had just arrived, and Batman goes in to hopefully take down Victor Zsasz. Now, when Batman gets inside, Robin is there already. Now, these 2 guys are technically not on good terms at the moment. And the reason why, because Batman will not listen to anybody else at all. He believes that he knows what's best for him and anyone else. And so the last few times when it came to Batman going up against other characters like the Mad Hatter and also Ventriloquist, he tells Robin to stay behind. And for Tim, it's kind of like, then what's the point of me being here with you if I can't really be your partner? But at the same time, what kind of partner does not listen to his partner when they're trying their best to watch over them? Because right now, Tim, Alfred, they know that Batman is completely drained. Now, when it comes to Robin, he does tell Batman that they have been followed by one of the 3 guys who work for Bane, and that would be Bird. And so for Robin, he says, listen, if you want me gone, I'll leave, and I will let you take down Victor Zsasz while I follow Bird to hopefully find Bane for you. And so you have Robin leave to go do that. But it really does show that these 2 are not on the same term right now. Now, the rest of this chapter is really more of Batman being able to bring down Victor Zsasz. But before you have Batman do that, we do see Victor being able to grab another officer, and that will be Renee Montoya. And she's also really important in Knightfall as well as one of the many officers that we are going to see. Now, when it comes to Batman, though, he's kind of hoping that Victor will know anything about Bane. But the problem is, Victor does not know anything about Bane at all. But Victor does know that if somebody went out of their way to break out all the inmates that Batman had put away, that means this person is really trying to come after Batman, which honestly, Victor is right. But either way, you do have Batman being able to go after Victor Zsasz. They do battle against each other. But again, you have Batman being able to win. But the problem is, though, even though he was able to take down Victor Zsasz, you can tell that Batman just can't hang on much longer. That these battles are taking a toll on him. And the question is, how much longer can he go when it comes to taking on all these different characters? Now, the next chapter we have to talk about takes place in Detective Comics number 660. Now, when it comes to this chapter, it's all about Killer Croc wanting to get revenge against Bane. Because remember, in one of the preludes that led into Knightfall, we saw Bane being able to break the arm of Killer Croc. And so this is Croc saying, you know what? It's time for me to get some payback. Now, something else I do want to mention is when it comes to Killer Croc around this time in DC Comics, he began to change. Let me explain. So when he first appeared in DC Comics, this man wanted to be a crime boss, which he almost was able to achieve. Now, he did have his skin problem, but he still had a mind of a man. But right now, he's beginning to change and turn more into like a crocodile man with a mind of an animal. And so right now, this is a guy who's not thinking like a regular human. He is thinking like an animal who just wants revenge against someone who had hurt him. And of course, that would be Bane. Now, we do jump over to Bane. When it comes to Bane, he's getting word from Bird about what happened to Batman in the last chapter. And you have Bird tell Bane, Batman is at his moment or at his end because that man is completely drained. That man cannot tell what's right to left or what's up and down. Like, you have the perfect time to actually break the bat. And for Bane, it does sound like the right time, but still with Bane, he wants to wait. He wants to see more of Batman going up against the different characters that Bane had released from Arkham Asylum. Now, when it comes to Bane and the rest of his crew, they have no idea that they're being watched by Robin, because remember, Robin said he saw Bird earlier, and so he was able to find Bird again and follow him all the way back over to Bane. And so now Robin found Bane, but he's trying to call Batman. But the problem is Batman cannot answer the call. And the reason why, because after Bird had left, and while you have the police right now taking away Victor's ass, Batman collapsed on the top of the rooftop. That man is physically, and for me personally, mentally drained. And so right now, he's just knocked out cold. And he cannot hear the call of Robin say, hey man, I found Bane. He's right here right now in front of me. Now, just for a brief moment, I want to jump back over to Dr. Simpson, and we actually talked about him in our last video. When it comes to Dr. Simpson, he used to work at Arkham Asylum, but he really believes that the inmates there in Arkham Asylum are not really insane. That matter of fact, they're misunderstood, that the outside world should try better to understand what these people have actually gone through, to see they're not insane, they're actually sane completely in the head. And so we see him on live television right now trying to push his new book, but to also push his agenda as well. Now, getting back over to Bane, Bane's still having his conversation with his crew. Now, when it comes to Bird, he wants to take care of Robin, but Bane says no. Our main target right now is Batman. We can deal with Robin later on. Now, when it comes to Bane, he does give his crew new tasks to take care of, and they all leave, and so does Bane. Now, when it comes to Robin, he feels like he should be able to tell Bane without Bane noticing that he is being tailed. But here's the thing. Bane is very aware of his surrounding, and so Bane is able to disappear and come right behind Robin to grab him. Now, I want to shift back over to Batman, and here's the reason why. So when it comes to Batman, he is actually found by Bullock because Batman fell asleep in a dumpster. Now, once you have the light be shined on Batman, he does wake up, and Bullock can realize that Batman looks like a hot mess, that this man needs to rest. But Batman is not going to rest, especially now because Batman is having a hard time getting a hold of Robin. And that tells us right there that Bane was able to get Robin. Now, when it comes to Robin, we see that he is blindfolded and his hands are tied behind his back. He is technically a prisoner of Bane right now. Now, when it comes to Bane, he's kind of like, you are very interesting in so many different ways. I don't understand why in the world that man has you as a sidekick. I don't understand why in the world he keeps you around, a child around, to help him fight against crime. Like literally, you are a wild card for Batman. Now for Bane, he believes that if he holds on to Robin just long enough, it should bring Batman straight to him. If that happens, it could give Bane the chance to actually take Batman down. Now, here's the problem though. Bane realized there's someone else in the sewers with them, and that would be Killer Croc. Now, when it comes to Killer Croc, this man, like I said earlier, is on a mission. This man's main goal is to bring down Bane. Now, Bane does remember Croc very well, but the thing is, Bane is not scared of Croc, because last time they saw each other, Bane was able to break the arm of Croc. But this time, Croc feels like he should be more prepared to take on Bane. But the problem is, while the fight goes on, the stone underneath their feet, it crumbles away. And so you have Bane, Croc, and also Robin fall deeper into the sewers, into a bunch of water. And so we're left to believe that Robin could most likely drown in the sewers, and this could be his end. And so getting into Batman number 494, we actually do pick up with Robin, Bane, and Killer Croc just flowing through the waters in the sewers. Now, Robin realized that sooner or later, he has to save himself, because if he doesn't, the later parts of these tunnels is most likely going to drown him. And so he's able to find a way to get out of the waters to save himself, but just barely. But Killer Croc and Bane, they went deeper into the sewers, leaving us wondering what exactly happened to them. But now we have to pick up with the Joker. Now, when it comes to the Joker, we see him meeting up with Cornelius Stirk. Now, when it comes to Cornelius, he's kind of like a low-grade version of Scarecrow, meaning that, yes, both characters do use, fear as a way to bring down their targets. But when it comes to Cornelius, he does not use fear toxin. Instead, he has a psychic ability where he is able to change his appearance when someone is looking at him. And so when he does it, he makes sure to bring out their worst fear. So for example, let's say you're scared of clowns. He will change his appearance in your mind into a clown, something that you are scared of. Now, when it comes to Joker, apparently he needs Cornelius for a big plan of his coming up very soon. Now, in the morning, we do pick up with Bruce Wayne in Wayne Manor, and we see Bruce calling Sandra Kinsolving. Now, when it comes to Sandra, she is his doctor right now who's trying to bring him back to health, because she realized that this is a man who's physically and mentally drained. And so she has been trying to work with him. But the problem is, thanks to Bane releasing all the inmates from Arkham Asylum, this man has to always cancel his appointments. And apparently, this is the 5th one that he had canceled. Now, something else I do want to mention is that when it comes to Sandra, by this point in DC Comics, she is beginning to somewhat like Bruce Wayne, wanting to be with him, because when he cancels, she's kind of upset about the idea he canceled, but not because his health, but more because she's unable to spend more time with him, a man she actually kind of likes right now. But you do have Alfred walk into the room and tell Bruce, hey, Tim is back. We found Tim. He's downstairs right now. But now I want to jump over to the office of the mayor, where we pick up with Mayor Kroll really being upset with Jim Gordon, because in our last video for Knightfall, the mayor told Jim, I want you to tell your officers to shoot to kill, to go ahead and get rid of all the inmates who are trying to escape from Arkham Asylum. But Jim said, no, my officers only shoot someone when the time comes to defend themselves. But the problem was, when that happened, all the inmates were able to escape. And now all the inmates are in Gotham City causing chaos across the entire town. And people are dying left and right. And so for the mayor, he said, listen, thanks to you, I now have to call in the National Guard. If I do that, that begins the process of you losing your job. And let's not forget that Jim just got married to Sarah. And so right now, his new wife might find out that he no longer has a job. But getting back over to the Batcave, you didn't have Batman be very happy about the idea that Tim is okay, Robin. But here's the problem though. You see, when it comes to Tim, he's kind of upset with Batman by the end of this section right here. And here is the reason why. Because you have Batman wondering, why in the world did Bane release all those different inmates for? Like, what is he trying to achieve by releasing all those inmates? And you have Robin say, because he's trying to come after you. Like, you're his main target. The inmates are a way to bring you down. It's clearly obvious, but also you need to rest. You need to stay here because if you go out there, there is a possibility that he could or someone else could bring you down. But for Batman, he says no, because right now the inmates are still causing chaos across the city. People are dying across the city. He has to go out there. But you have Tim say, listen, man, I can go out there, or Azrael. But for Bruce, no, it has to be him. And Alfred says, both of you are crazy. But either way, Bruce leaves. But now it's time to bring Scarecrow into the picture. Now, when it comes to Scarecrow, we see him go to a bar looking for the Joker, where of course the Joker is not there. But some of the men who used to work for the Joker is there. And so you have Scarecrow go there to ask the men, where is the Joker? What does he have planned for Gotham City? Now, when it comes to one of the guys, he is hit with fear toxin. But thanks to the fear toxin, he does tell Jim everything he needs to know. He says, listen, when it comes to the Joker, he's right now going after Jim Gordon. And so you have Scarecrow leave to see what is the Joker actually up to. Now for Batman, he's trying to find Cornelius Stirk. But the problem is, even though Bruce was able to figure out where Cornelius could be hiding out at, when he arrives at the hideout, Cornelius is already gone. But he did leave a note behind that kind of tells Batman that his next target is Jim Gordon. Now, when it comes to the Joker, his main plan was to go after Jim Gordon because Jim is the man in charge of the GCPD. If you are able to control him, then you'll be able to control the GCPD. And so he thought, you know what? Let me use Cornelius as a way to get close to Jim Gordon because Cornelius has the ability to bring out the worst fear in people. And then if Jim does see his worst fear, he will be unable to do anything to protect himself. That would allow Cornelius to grab Jim and bring Jim back to the Joker. Now, when it comes to Jim, it seems like his worst fear is Batman. Because remember, when it comes to Cornelius, yes, he's able to bring out your worst fear, but he has the ability to make you see something else when it comes to looking at him. And so when Jim looks at Cornelius, he sees Batman with a knife trying to kill him. Now, here's the problem. The Joker told Cornelius, I need you to kidnap him. But for Cornelius, nah, he wants to go ahead and kill off Jim Gordon. Now, luckily, Batman, the real Batman, arrives and he is able to take down Cornelius. Now, while you have the Joker walking away, he's then confronted by Scarecrow. Now, when it comes to Scarecrow, he is ticked off because he says, how dare you use someone like Cornelius, who's not as good as me when it comes to fear, to go after a target? You should have came to me because I'm the best person when it comes to using fear. Now, when it comes to Scarecrow, he said, listen, your plan was a good one, but it was a tad bit small. Like, yes, going after Jim Gordon was a great idea as a way to control the GCPD. But why not go even higher up? Why not go after the mayor to bring real chaos to Gotham City? Now, getting back over to Batman, we see that he's trying his best to make sure that Jim is okay, because Jim is still freaking out thanks to Cornelius. Now, you do have Sarah arrive. Now, when it comes to Sarah, let's not forget that this woman does not like Batman at all because he goes against everything that Jim stands for when it comes to being a police officer. The idea that Batman is a vigilante. There are some other reasons as well, but for right now, that's the main one. And so for her, she's kind of like, what happened to my husband? And Batman tries to tell her what exactly happened. But to her, she feels like this is all Batman's fault, and she takes Jim away. Now for Bruce, he realized that so far into Knightfall, only the small-time criminals have been causing problems across Gotham. The big-time ones have not done anything big just yet, like the Joker, Two-Face, Scarecrow, Poison Ivy. And really, this was Joker's scheme, but Batman has no idea it was Joker's scheme. But Bruce is right. The big-timers have not done anything big just yet, and that could happen very soon. Now, the last page of this chapter, we actually do see Scarecrow and the Joker being able to get into the office of the mayor. And when they do, bam, just like that, they hit him with fear toxin. And so now they are able to work on him to begin to use his power over Gotham to control Gotham and their image. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, we are still going to continue on with Knightfall in our next couple videos for Batman. And then, man, again, the Night Quest, Night Sin, the Search, all those other big things that tie into Knightfall completely. But hey, What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over Batman Knightfall. Now remember, when it comes to Knightfall, it's all about the idea that Bane wants to break the bat. You see, when it came to Bane, he went over to Arkham Asylum to release all the prisoners in Arkham Asylum. And so right now, they're causing chaos across Gotham City. Now here is the reason why. Because he want to push Batman to his limit, physically and mentally. And so when Batman does meet those limits, well then Bane will be able to break the bat. Now by this point in Knightfall, when it comes to Batman, he only has been dealing with the low tier bad guys. So like Mad Hatter or Victor Zsasz. But now it's time for him to handle the big time ones like the Joker, Scarecrow, Poison Ivy, Two-Face, and even Firefly apparently. But either way, this is going to be the time where we see Batman really get pushed to his limit. And so getting into Detective Comics number 661, we do pick up with the Joker and also Scarecrow. Now the opening pages of this chapter is basically a way to remind us that Scarecrow and Joker had agreed to work together to cause more chaos in Gotham City. But the best way to do that was to go after the mayor, because he has the ability to control almost anything in Gotham City. The police department, the fire department, and the list goes on. And so when it comes to Joker and Scarecrow, they had used fear toxin as a way to break the mayor down so that he'll follow all their orders. And so right now their next goal is to mess with the fire department, which honestly is a hint of what this chapter is going to be about. Because now we pick up with Batman going after Firefly. Now, when it comes to Firefly, he actually used to work in the movie industries as a explosion expert. But the problem is he fell in love with fire to the point where he began to do arson for a profit. But then after a while, he began to do arson just for the heck of it. He loves the idea of seeing things burn. And so when it comes to Firefly, he is currently burning down an entire amusement park. Now, when it comes to Batman and Robin, they do arrive, but you have Batman once again tell Robin to sit this one out, that he should be able to handle Firefly on his own. Now, for Robin, it makes no sense for Batman to go in there on his own when an entire amusement park right now is on fire. But on top of that, back in the preludes that led into Knightfall, we saw that Batman had already hit his limit when it comes to being physically and mentally drained. And so for Robin, he says, dude, you can barely stand right now, and you want to go in there and stop Firefly, but Batman believes that he knows what's best. Now, when it comes to Batman, he comes to find out that Firefly got some upgrades, meaning that he's able to fly away now. And so as soon as Batman gets up there and try to stop Firefly, he flies away, and now Batman is stuck up there. Now, luckily for Bruce, Robin was able to bring Batman back down safely, but Firefly got away. Now, for Robin, he does tell Batman, you know what? Let me help out. Like, you're the one who tells me all the time to use my brain before we jump into different kinds of situations. But here you are right now, not using your brain before you went in there to try to bring him down. And honestly, you need the help. And so for Batman, he's kind of like, you know what? If you want to help so bad, this is what I want you to do first. I want you to go back to the Batcave with me and study Firefly to learn everything about him, to figure out where he could attack next and how we can bring him down. And then maybe I will agree in the idea of you actually helping me. Now, Robin is not the only person who wants Batman to stop. It's really also Alfred as well. But again, Batman is not listening. Now, when it comes to Alfred, he does inform Bruce that Sandra Kinsolving has been calling, and she wants to make sure that Bruce is okay. Now, remember, when it comes to Sandra, she's technically Bruce Wayne's physical therapist. Her goal right now is to get him back into shape. But the problem is, he won't rest. But on top of that, he keeps calling off every single appointment that he has with her. And also, we're seeing a Bruce that is very short when it comes to Alfred. Just kind of rude to Alfred anytime Alfred tries to help Bruce Wayne out. Now, when it comes to Tim, he does try his best to get a better understanding of Firefly. And so he looks back at all the records they have on Firefly, you know, his criminal record, his job record, everything about him. Now, when it comes to Robin, he realized that, well, Garfield doesn't have any family at all. No parents, no sister, none of that. But he also found out that Garfield, Firefly, was actually an orphan. And matter of fact, he stayed at an orphanage in Gotham. And so for Robin, he does head over there to see if anybody does remember Firefly at all. Now he does arrive, he does get a creepy vibe from this place because it does look very deserted, but he does run into one of the sisters that did run the orphanage back then, and she says, yes, I do remember him very well, but I also remembered that he had a sister, but she did change her last name. And so for Tim, that is great because now he can use her to hopefully find Firefly. Now, there has been a doctor I have been talking about in the last few videos right now, better known as Dr. Simpson. And when it comes to Dr. Simpson, he's really all about the idea that the inmates of Arkham Asylum are not really crazy at all. That matter of fact, to him, they are perfectly sane. They're just misunderstood. Now, this is also Dr. Simpson trying to push his book, but he does pop up every once in a while when it comes to the different chapters of Knightfall. Now, I want to jump over to the Riddler because he's one of the inmates that were able to escape out of Arkham Asylum thanks to Bane. But when it comes to the Riddler, he's waiting for the right time. As we all know, when it comes to the Riddler, he can't do anything without putting out his riddles at first. But the problem is his crew, they're ready to go right now when it comes to his plans. But he says, no, my plans have to be perfect. But on top of that, we have to wait until all my riddles are in place. Now, when it comes to one of his riddles, it's being sent over to the GCPD. But here's the problem though. Even though you do have one of the officers right now opening up their mail, they all get called away to handle a different kind of situation. And so when it comes to the Riddler's riddle, well, it just sits there and no one is able to see it nor read it because they all been called away to handle a different kind of situation. Now, when it comes to Tim Drake, he did call up Renee Montoya. Really, he called the GCPD to say, if you're trying to figure out where Firefly is at, you should go look at his sister. And here is her address. Now, when it comes to Firefly's sister, she did change her name and stayed in Gotham City, but she has not seen her brother in a very long time, especially now because he's free again. But when it comes to Firefly's sister, she says, listen, he's going to different locations that we used to hear about every single time someone almost adopted us. And so it's him probably going there as a way to get revenge against the people who did not take us in when it came time for adoption. And so for Robin, he now knows where Firefly is going to attack next. And so he calls up Batman. Now, you would think with the idea of Robin being able to collect all that information for Batman, that Bruce is going to allow Robin to actually help out with this situation. But the problem is, Batman does not allow Robin to help out. He says, hey man, thank you for all your hard work, but I am nearby one of those locations and I feel like he's there right now, so I'll go ahead and go on my own. And so once again, Robin is being put on the sideline. Now, when it comes to Batman, he does find Firefly, but here's the thing about Firefly. He does not want to fight Batman. The only thing he wants to do is to watch things burn. And so for Firefly, he wants to get away, to continue to burn things down across Gotham. Now, you do have Batman being able to grab Firefly, but the problem is now at the end of this chapter, they're both falling down into flames that Firefly had produced in this area that he was trying to burn down. But as we jump into Batman number 495, we actually do see that Bruce Wayne, Batman, and also Firefly are able to get away from the flames. Now, at first, Firefly is able to get away, and it does seem like maybe Batman is going to still die, but of course we all know he's the hero of the book. He gotta survive. And so we do see Batman being able to get away from the flames that were underneath him to stay alive. Now for Batman, he's so exhausted that one, he is unable to continue on at this moment to go chase down Firefly, but two, he's very worried about the idea of different bad guys still out there in Gotham causing chaos across the entire city. Now, I want to jump over to Azrael. You see, when it comes to Azrael, this is a man who's trying his best to prove that he is actually worthy. Because right now, when it comes to Azrael, he's still upset about the idea that he lost to Killer Croc in one of the preludes that led into Knightfall. And so because of that, he wants to show that one, he is worthy, but two, he should be able to take down Killer Croc as well. And so now we see Azrael out there in the night trying to help protect Gotham, but for a completely different reason. Now, once you have Batman get back over to Wayne Manor, he is confronted by Alfred once again, where you do have Alfred tell Bruce, like, hey man, listen, tonight you cannot be Batman. And the reason why, because you have to go to a charity event. And so, unfortunately, let's put being Batman on hold. Now, yes, I understand that there's still some crazy bad guys out there causing havoc in Gotham, but you need your rest, but to also still be Bruce Wayne in the daytime and the nighttime as well. And so you have Bruce agree, but at the same time, it's still Bruce saying, but the bad guys out there, I gotta stop them. Now, when it comes to that charity event, we do learn that Poison Ivy is also going to be there as well as the next bad guy for Batman to handle. Now, when it comes to Ivy, she's also being watched by Bird, one of the guys that works for Bane. And you have Bird tell Bane, hey man, listen, I think you want to come down here to observe what could possibly happen here tonight with Poison Ivy and Batman, because Poison Ivy is one of the big timer when it comes to Batman's rogue gallery. And so this could be a very interesting battle for Bane and Bird to observe. Now, we cannot forget that when it comes to Joker and Scarecrow, they're still holding on to the mayor, and they're using the mayor as a way to cause a lot of havoc across Gotham City. And so when it comes to Joker and Scarecrow, they tell the mayor, hey, we need you to tell all the officers to go to a certain location. And so all the officers go there, but it's going to be a trap set up by the Joker and Scarecrow. Now, when it comes to Sandra, she is worried about Bruce. She's at the charity event, and so when he does arrive, she does go up to question him. But for Bruce, he just brushes it off. He's kind of like, listen, everything is okay. And the only medicine I need right now is your presence at my table. So please sit with me. And they move on with the night. Now, while you have Bruce and Sandra go inside, Bane is watching them. And Bane now knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Bane says it's so obvious that that man right there, Bruce, is so exhausted, so mentally drained, that so is Batman. The two guys are just alike, that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Now, before the charity can actually, begin, you did have Poison Ivy arrive. Now, when it comes to Ivy, her target is only the men, not the women. And so when it comes to all the ladies, they're also under her trance, but she's going to leave them behind. But all the men who had appeared at this charity event, they're under her control, thanks to her spores in the room. Now, when it comes to Bruce Wayne, he realized what was happening to him before he was able to be taken over by her. And so he put in some blockers to protect him, but right now he's pretending that he's also under her control to see what she actually is up to. But she then tells all the guys to get into a truck and they're going to a different location. Now, I really want to focus on the Poison Ivy plotline here for a moment, and here's the reason why. So it does get wrapped up very quickly, but also because it's not really that major or cool for Knightfall. Let me explain. So when it comes to Ivy, she does take all the guys over to a different location, most likely her new base. Now, when they do arrive, her main goal is to just take all their valuables they have on them and then kiss them as a way to kill them off. Because when it comes to Ivy, her entire body is just full of different kinds of poison. And so for her, that's her main goal. Now, when it comes to Bruce, he is able to sneak away and turn to Batman to fight against her. Now, the fight does last for a few pages because she does have a few guys who are completely under her control to the point where there's no way to actually save them. But once you have Batman be able to take down Ivy, we can move on with Knightfall. Now, let's not forget that when it comes to Joker and Scarecrow, they had told the mayor to call up the GCPD to tell them to head over to a certain location. Now, when they arrived, they believed that the mayor was being tortured by the Joker, and so they sent in a unit to hopefully save the mayor. But the problem is, there was a bomb placed inside, and so as soon as the officers got inside, boom, there goes the entire police force in that building right there. And now the Joker and Scarecrow can somewhat celebrate. Now, that news is spread fast across Gotham, and Bane finds out what Joker and Scarecrow did. And really for Bane, he's more focused on the Joker rather than Scarecrow, because the Joker has the rep of being Batman's #1 bad guy. And so for Bane, he's kind of wondering, can Batman actually survive going up against the Joker? Now, getting into Detective Comics number 662, we actually pick up with the Riddler. Now, when it comes to the Riddler, we see that he had apparently ticked off his entire crew because to his crew, they're tired of waiting. You see, when it comes to the Riddler, you can't do any of his plans until this man's riddles are in place to allow his plans to actually work. And as we saw earlier, when it came to his latest riddle, it was sent over to the GCPD. But the problem is they got busy and left left his note behind, and no one saw the note that he had sent over. And so for the Riddler, his new plan has not gone in motion at all, and now his crew wants to get rid of him and go ahead and pull off his plan without his help. And so they scare him away. Now, when it comes to the Riddler, he's kind of wondering, how in the world is he going to be able to spread chaos in his way across Gotham? And he realized, you know what? Live television. It's the perfect way to spread my kind of chaos in Gotham. Now, getting back over to Tim Drake, we see that Tim is really bothered about the idea that when it comes to Batman going after Firefly, he hates the idea that he was the one who did all the work to get a better understanding of who Firefly is, and he's not even allowed to help take down Firefly, because once again, Batman must go on his own. And so we see Batman heading over to the next location where he will most likely find Firefly. Now, for Tim Drake, he should not worry too much about the idea of not being able to go after any of the inmates who had escaped from Arkham Asylum, because while you have Tim in the Batcave trying to watch TV on the Bat computer, well, he turns over to the show that Dr. Simpson is on. And remember, when it comes to Dr. Simpson, the whole idea of this character right now is trying to spread the word that the inmates who had escaped from Arkham Asylum are not really insane at all. That matter of fact, they're just misunderstood. And so while you have Dr. Simpson once again on live television trying to push his book, but also his idea of the inmates, well, you have the Riddler appear. And when he does, he takes over the entire TV set. But Robin, he sees this and realizes that because Batman right now is trying to deal with Firefly, it's up to Robin to stop the Riddler. Now, when it comes to the whole Firefly plotline for Batman, it does get wrapped up in this chapter, and really, it's one heck of a battle for Batman. And here's the reason why. So, when Batman does arrive at the Gotham Zoo, the next spot to find Firefly at, you do have Batman once again try his best to take down Firefly. Now, their battle does go on for a few pages, but their battle does begin to move over to one of the pits that belongs to the Black Panthers. And so you have the Panthers begin to attack Batman. And so now trying to survive the Panthers, but to also try to stop Firefly, made this fight somewhat interesting, because we have to remember that this is a Batman who's also physically and mentally drained as well. But either way, you do have Batman being able to stop the Panthers from attacking him, get out of the pit, but then be able to find Firefly and to actually bring him down just like that. Now, I want to get back over to the Riddler situation, and honestly, there's not much there, but at the same time, there's still something I want to talk about, because when it comes to the Riddler, yes, he was able to take over the entire TV set, and yes, he does tell everyone who's watching this show right now that there could be a bomb nearby, and he has the ability to hit a button to set the bomb off. But to me, that's not really important. What really is important is that you have the Riddler going on live television to tell the world that Dr. Simpson is completely wrong. Because that man has been going on different TV shows basically saying that, you know, the inmates are just misunderstood. Like technically they are saying they just had some hard times growing up, but honestly, they're good people. But for the Riddler, he says that's not true at all. Like, no, we are insane. I definitely know I, myself, is insane. There's no way, and you know what, that down the road, I will be able to become a sane person. So yes, I know that you are completely wrong. And for me personally, I kind of like that because it's another bad guy out there in Gotham City realizing that, yes, they are a tad bit are a whole lot insane. But either way, this plot line does get wrapped up when you have Robin move in. Now, for Robin, the Riddler is an easy person to take down, but here's the problem though. He had a button that he could hit to set off a bomb to kill off innocent people. And so when you had Tim Drake go up close to stop the Riddler, he could have hit that button. And so even though he was able to take down the Riddler, you have Bullock walk up straight to Robin and say, what is wrong with you? Like, what you just did was a bonehead move, because you don't understand that that man had the ability to kill off innocent people. If you were not able to get to him in time, then most likely you would have failed and innocent folks would have died because of you. I know Batman. He would have found a different way to bring down the Riddler. Now, when it comes to Bullock, he does find out that the bomb that the Riddler was talking about was actually not true at all. There was no bomb, but still, for Bullock, it was still a bonehead move what Robin did there. Now, the last section for this video is going to be about, well, another character now appearing in Gotham City to most likely take down the bad guys who had escaped from Arkham Asylum, because we do pick up with the Riddler's crew and we still see them right now trying to pull off his plan, but unfortunately they are stopped by no other than, well, the Huntress. She is now arrived in Gotham City, but the question is, what is going to be her role in Knightfall? But this What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over Batman Knightfall. And now we get into the point where we're going to see Batman going up against the Joker and Scarecrow. Now remember, when it came to the Joker and Scarecrow in the earlier parts of Knightfall, they were able to work together, but to also kidnap the mayor as well. And they're currently using the mayor as a way to cause chaos across Gotham City, with the fire department, with the police department, and the list goes on and on. But now it's time for the Joker and also Scarecrow to go after the one person that has always caused them many problems, and that would be the Batman. Now, something else we have to remember, that when it comes to Knightfall, it's all about the idea that Bane wants to break the Bat. And so what he did was he had released all the inmates from Arkham Asylum. I'm talking about the low tier bad guys and the high tier bad guys as well. Now, at first, when it came to Batman, he was dealing with the low tier bad guys like Victor Zsasz. But right now, he's dealing with the higher ones like Poison Ivy, the Joker, and Scarecrow. And so for Bane, he's just hoping to get Batman to that point where he is mentally and physically drained. And really, by this point in our coverage over Knightfall, we can say that Batman has reached that point, because as we dive into Batman number 496, we do pick up where our last video left off at, where you have Batman trying to bring down Firefly. Now, he was able to do it, but he barely won. And so it really showed that Batman is really hitting the point of being physically and mentally drained. And in our earlier videos, we had talked about the idea that different people who are close to Batman had realized that he is physically and mentally drained. But now the public is beginning to find out, because every single time you have Batman being able to bring down a certain enemy, well, when he's leaving, the reporters are there to report what happened at the scene. But they see Batman and they realize that Batman looks defeated. Like, he looks like he needs a good night of rest. But the problem is he can't rest. And so you have these reporters talking about Batman on live television. And the Joker and Scarecrow, they hear about this. And to them, this is the perfect time to actually attack Batman, to set up a trap to finally bring him down. And they realize they can use the mayor as a way to bring Batman into that trap to finally bring down the Bat. Now, word does get out very quickly that the Joker and Scarecrow have kidnapped the mayor. And so for the GCPD and for, well, Batman, they're trying to figure out where has the Joker and Scarecrow taken the mayor to. Now, the GCPD, they had stopped by the home of the mayor hoping to find some kind of clue that can tell them where the Joker and Scarecrow has taken the mayor to. Except when they arrived at the house, they don't know the entire place is set to blow up because the Joker and Scarecrow knew that the GCPD, or at least Batman, was stopped by the place. And so when you have Harvey Bullock walk through the front door, he sets the trap off and the entire place is about to explode. But luckily for Harvey, Batman was there to grab him and save him just in time. Now, just for a brief moment, I want to shift our focus over to Bane. And here's the reason why. So Bane tells us that the Joker and the Scarecrow have the ability to actually take over Gotham City. They have the ability to bring down the Batman. The problem is that they lack discipline. If they had the discipline, then Gotham would be a complete wreck by now. Batman would most likely be dead by now. But that's the problem with the Joker and the Scarecrow. And so for Bane, he knows that most likely Batman is going to be able to take down the Joker and Scarecrow. But once Batman does it, it's Bane saying, and then it'll be our turn to attack the Bat. Now, I want to get into the whole idea of what the Joker and Scarecrow actually have planned for Batman, because it's not really a bad game plan, except, well, it's Batman. You see, what you had the Joker and Scarecrow do was they took the mayor over to an underground tunnel that runs underneath the river in Gotham City. And then they block both ends of the tunnels. And they know that if they get the mayor to call up the National Guards, that means the GCPD and Batman will also be called. But they know Batman will go in first to hopefully save the mayor, but to bring down the Joker and Scarecrow. And then once you have Batman being able to get into the tunnels, they're going to ambush him with fear toxin, because this man is physically and mentally drained. That most likely, once he's hit with fear toxin, he is going to collapse full of fear. And then they should be able to bring him down. Like I said, it's a good plan, except when they do hit the man with fear toxin, well, that plan falls apart very quickly. And that's the problem though, because when they do hit Batman with fear toxin, he begins to see his biggest failure at this time in DC Comics, and that would be Jason Todd. The idea the Joker had killed off Jason Todd. And so as soon as Batman just keeps seeing images over and over again of Jason Todd, you have Batman just beat down on the Joker over and over and over, one more time, and over again, because this man is so upset with the idea that the Joker has taken away someone that he looked as a son. And so now you have Batman just beating down on the Joker and Scarecrow as well. But you have Scarecrow being able to grab a rocket launcher and shoot the wall of the tunnel. Now, like I said earlier, this tunnel runs underneath the river of Gotham City, and Joker and Scarecrow have blocked both ends of the tunnels. And so this whole entire tunnel is about to flood with full of water, and Batman and the mayor could possibly drown in the tunnels. But now it's time for us to dive into Detective Comics number 663, where we actually do pick up with Batman trying to find different ways to save his life and also the mayor's life as well before they drown in the tunnels. Now, I'm not going to drag this out at all because we already know that Batman is going to find a way somehow to actually save both their lives, which he's able to do. And so once you have Batman being able to get the mayor out of the tunnels, we can see once again that Batman is completely drained. Like, this is a man who needs to go home and rest. But unfortunately, his night is not done just yet, because like Bane said earlier, if Batman does survive going up against the Joker and Scarecrow, then it's Bane's turn to actually test out the bat. And so now Bane's crew is going to fight against Batman. Now, when it comes to Bane's crew, they each have their own kind of fighting style. And so for Batman, this is not going to be an easy moment because now he has to adjust to each person's fighting style. And really, as soon as he takes down one of them, he has to go up against another one in a matter of seconds and quickly adjust to that person's new fighting style. Now, for Batman, we already know that he's going to be able to take each of them down, but the problem is though, he has no time to rest at all. I mean, this is a man who just dealt with the Joker and Scarecrow, and soon after that, he's confronted by Bane's crew. He takes out one of them, another one jumps in, and it's kind of like, man, this guy is being put through the ringer. Now, once he is able to take down all three members of Bane's crew, it's time for him to go back to his home. And so you then have Batman head home, and this gives us one heck of an ending because once you have Batman get home to Wayne Manor, he thinks that it's time for him to get some kind of rest. But unfortunately, when he walks into the upper level of Wayne Manor, he sees that Alfred is knocked out. Now, at first, he thinks that Alfred is dead, but somebody says, no, he's not dead. He's alive, but you, my friend, are about to die right now. And we see that Bane is in the home of Wayne Manor to now break the bat. And this is where we are. What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we have now reached the point where we are going to see Bane breaking the bat. Now, this is one of the biggest moments in Batman comics. Now, for some fans out there, it's most likely the biggest moment. But like I said, for some fans, for most other fans of Batman comics, it's just one of many big moments in Batman comics. But yes, this is the point where you have Bane breaking the bat. Now, when it comes to this point in Knightfall, Batman is physically and mentally drained. And really, even before we got into Knightfall, we saw Batman kind of getting to those points where he was physically and mentally drained. And the main reason why? Because Batman was not getting the proper rest that he actually needed. This was a man who was going out being Batman without making sure that he went home at night or in the daytime and trying to get some rest. And so for back-to-back days, he would go out as Batman with minimum rest taken. And so because of that, he's physically and mentally drained. And so by Knightfall came around and you had Bane say, you know what, let me go ahead and release all the inmates from Arkham Asylum. It made things even harder for Batman. Now, by this point in Knightfall, this is a man who's just trying to go home and actually try to get some rest. Except at the end of our last video, you have Batman come home and find Alfred just knocked out. And then when he looks up, he realized that Bane is in his home because Bane was able to easily figure out that Bruce Wayne was Batman. And so now it's Bane saying, welcome home. It's now time for me to break your back. Now, before you have Batman and Bane get into their ultimate fight, which honestly is a beatdown for Batman, you have Batman ask Bane, what do you want? Like, why are you doing this all for? And Bane tells straight up like, oh, I'm doing this all because I want to control Gotham. If I'm able to get rid of you, that means Gotham is mine. Now, you also have Bane make sure to pump himself full of venom. Now, for Batman, he knows about the drug venom because there was a story arc where Batman actually got hooked on the drug, better known as Venom. And so for Batman, he's all like, wait a second, you're taking Venom? And for Batman, he knows what that stuff can do to you. But it's Bane saying, yeah, you may know what Venom is, but that was a different Venom that you took. This is my version, and this version is completely different and helps me out in so many different ways than the one you took in the past. But either way, it's Bane saying now, okay, listen, we talked and now you know why I'm here and you know what I want. Let's go ahead and get onto the battle. And so you have Batman drop the robe and put on the Batman outfit for what he believes could be his last battle. Now, like I said, it's automatically a beatdown. You have Batman try to jump at Bane, but Bane said, son, do you know who I am? And do you know where you are at this point when it comes to your body physically and mentally? Like, there's no way you can just jump at me and believe that you'll be able to take me down, because you have Bane just beat Batman all the way down to the Bat Cave. Now, while you have the two characters fighting, really, while you have Bane beating down on Batman, Batman is constantly thinking about all the things that led up to this moment. And so at first, it's all the different moments with Metalhead or Headhunter or the Black Mask that took place before the actual Knightfall event that did play a huge role when it came to Batman being physically and mentally drained, but also the idea the man is not getting the proper rest that he needed. And so right now for Batman, he realized that he has no energy to actually use to fight back against Bane. And so Bane is able to just throw Batman around like he's a piece of paper or just a doll. But this is the Batman who's on his own. I mean, this is the Batman who does not have Tim Drake right now, because Tim Drake is at his dad's place. Dick Grayson is not there. Azrael is not there. I mean, yes, there's Alfred, but what can Alfred do? Matter of fact, when Batman came home, he found Alfred knocked out. And really, when Alfred woke up, he told Alfred, get the heck out of here, because Batman knew that Alfred can't do anything to Bane. Now, when it comes to Batman, he also realized that the nights he had the chances to actually rest, he should have rested. But the problem was Batman could not rest because he truly believed that he had to be Batman day in and day out because Gotham needed him so badly. But now it's him realizing that he should have rested, especially before Bane was able to break out all the different prisoners in Arkham Asylum. And so Batman's been burned, he's been cut, he's been punched, kicked, thrown against walls and everything. And so he is completely drained. And so it does get to the moment where you do have Bane grab Batman and just break his back. Just like that. The Batman has been broken. Now for Alfred, he does get away, and Alfred does run over to the home of the Drakes to get Tim Drake like, hey, I need your help. Like, Bruce needs your help really bad right now. You don't understand how serious things are right now at this exact moment. And so you have Tim and Alfred head back to Wayne Manor. But the problem is, it's too late. Batman's back has been officially broken. And so then you have Bane take Batman into Gotham City to show everyone what he was able to do to Batman, that he was able to break the Bat, to break their protector, to break their hero. And once he showed the people of Gotham what he has done, he then throws Batman to the ground. But here's the thing, Bane was on top of a building. So you are talking about the idea of Batman being thrown off a rooftop, falling down from a good height onto the ground very hard. So a man who just got his back broken a moment ago just went through some more serious injuries. But either way, he's now falling down onto the ground in front of the people that he tried so hard to protect. Now, luckily for Batman, Renee Montoya was there. Now, when it comes to Renee Montoya, she's one of the many officers who are really important in Batman comics, but she knows about the Batman. She knows that he works alongside with Jim Gordon and he is a good man. But unfortunately, she now sees the hero on the ground, bleeding, broken, and wondering what to do. Now, out of nowhere, you do have a couple of paramedics appear and they say, hey, we are here to take Batman away, over to a nearby hospital. Now, this is not your usual paramedics. It's just Azrael and Alfred pretending to be paramedics to get Batman back over to Wayne Manor to hopefully begin the process of saving his life. Now, for Tim Drake, he's telling Alfred they gotta go to the hospital. It's the only way to save Batman's life. But you have Alfred say, "Are you crazy? Like, think about it. If we take him to a hospital, they're gonna find out that Batman is Bruce Wayne, which means that Bruce will be unable to be Batman anymore. Will basically be killing off Batman in that route right there. The best way to help him, but to also make sure the idea of Batman does not die, is to go back to the Batcave. And hopefully I, myself, can save him from dying, but also save him from having to retire as a hero." Now, word does get out very quickly about the idea of Batman being defeated by Bane, that Batman has been broken, that Batman has been defeated, because we jump over to Joker and Scarecrow, and they're watching TV, and all these different news channels is talking about the idea of what happened to Batman. Now, let's not forget, when they came to Joker and Scarecrow earlier in Knightfall, they were working together when they kidnapped the mayor to use the mayor to cause chaos across Gotham City. But now the Joker is very upset about the idea that a new character, a new villain, was able to come into Gotham and break the bat on their first try. He's talking about Bane, because this was the first time Bane had truly appeared in DC Comics. I mean, yes, he did appear in other books that led up to this moment, but this was his first big, huge storyline that he ever appeared in. And so for the Joker, he's kind of jealous that he was not able to break the bat. Now for Scarecrow, he's done working with the Joker. You see, when it came to Scarecrow, he wanted to continue to use the mayor to cause chaos across Gotham City. It was the Joker who decided to go after Batman, but of course they both failed. And so this is Scarecrow saying, "This is all your fault. Like, we failed because of you." And for the Joker, he does not like that at all. And so you have the two characters say, "You know what? Let's go our separate ways." But you do have Scarecrow try his best to take down the Joker by using his fear toxin. But the thing is, the Joker is not scared of anything. And so he is not really affected by the fear toxin, and he was able to take down Scarecrow. Now, getting back over to Alfred, Robin, and Azrael, they do make it back to the Batcave. But by this point, Batman is broken. His back is broken. His neck is broken. His leg is broken. I mean, this man is broken everywhere. Now, when it comes to Alfred, he does tell Robin that they need a certain kind of medicine that could most likely help Bruce out. After you have Robin walk away, you then have Alfred tell Azrael the honest truth. He said, "Listen, even if Bruce Wayne does wake up, even with the medicine, there's still a possibility that Bruce might be paralyzed for life." Now, really, the book does kind of end at a very fast pace where you do have Robin and Azrael being able to meet up with Jim Gordon. Now, once they do that, you then have Robin tell Jim what they need, the kind of medicine that could most likely help Bruce survive. Now, for Jim, he's always down with the idea of helping out Batman because him and Batman are very close. So to hear the idea that Batman is in some serious bad shape right now, Jim is very down to help out Robin. And so Tim tells him, "I need this certain kind of medicine." And so Jim calls up Bullock and Montoya to make sure the medicine can be picked up by Robin and Azrael and taken back over to Alfred. And hopefully Alfred will be able to save Batman's life. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video, because in our next video, we're going to cover a Two-Face story that takes place in the middle of Knightfall. What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over Batman Knightfall, but now we have reached a point where Batman is no longer, well, Batman. You see, in our last video, we saw Bane being able to break the back of the Batman. And so now Bruce Wayne is out of commission. Now, before we are able to see John Paul take up the mantle as Batman, we do get this flashback story where we see that Batman had apparently fought against Two-Face in the middle of Knightfall. It's just that we weren't told about it until now. And so we're going to cover two issues that basically tell us how Batman was able to go up against Two-Face and how he won against him in the middle of Knightfall. Now, the first chapter we have to talk about takes place in Showcase 93, issue number 7. Now, the opening pages does take place in the present day where we see Alfred, Tim Drake, and also John Paul Valley watching over Batman, wondering if the man is going to be able to recover from his recent injuries thanks to Bane. Now, they gave him some medicine, but right now their main goal is to see if Bruce is able to wake up after getting his butt kicked by Bane. Now, this is where you have Tim Drake begin to blame himself for what happened apparently 3 weeks earlier involving Two-Face. Now, before we dive deeper into that right there, I do want to explain the whole point of Knightfall. You see, when it came to Bruce Wayne, this man was completely and mentally drained even before Knightfall had truly kicked off. And the reason why? Because Bruce Wayne was not getting the proper rest he needed to make sure that he could be a good Batman at night. And so by the time you have Bane go ahead to Arkham Asylum to release all the inmates, it made things even worse. So by the time Batman was confronted by Bane, he was most definitely drained mentally and physically trying to go up against Bane, making himself an easy opponent for Bane to take out. And so for Tim Drake, he's saying, I should have realized 3 weeks ago before Bane had broke the bat that Batman should have been stopped. But the problem was I didn't stop him. And I realized after we had taken down Two-Face is when I should have stopped him. And so now we go back in the past to explain what happened with Two-Face. Now, we do jump into the past where we actually pick up with Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face, heading over to the old courthouse of Gotham City. Now, when it comes to the courthouse, this was where Harvey Dent was turned into Two-Face. It was a big moment. But here's the thing. For Harvey Dent turning into Two-Face, it is important. But what really is more important is the idea that Harvey Dent feels like Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, had betrayed him. You see, in the early days of Bruce being Batman, he had worked very close to Harvey Dent, who was a district attorney for Gotham City. But here's the problem though, guys. You see, when it came to Harvey, he just went too far for Batman to allow the idea of them two working together. And so for Bruce, he backed away. He said, listen, man, I can no longer work with you. And so for Harvey, he feels like Batman had betrayed him because in the early days of Bruce Wayne being Batman, him, Jim Gordon, and Harvey Dent, they made a pact together to work together to bring justice to Gotham City. But because Batman stepped away, it's Harvey saying it's time for me to get revenge for the man who could be the reason why I fell down in my career, but also became Two-Face. Now, before Two-Face is able to go after Batman, Two-Face needs a gang of enforcers to kind of help out with the plan he has against the Bat. Now, here's the thing. You see, with Two-Face, he does head over to a crime lord's office, a guy known as Legs Lyman. Now, when it comes to Two-Face, he does have some information that he can use to blackmail Legs to make Legs go ahead and hand over his entire gang to Two-Face. Now, at first, it does look like Legs will go ahead and hand over the entire gang to Two-Face. But then he said, never mind, I'm not going to do that at all. Now for Two-Face, he kind of knew that Legs would not do that. And so he shot and killed Legs right in his office. Now, there were some members to Legs gang there, and they're kind of like, yo, what in the world did you just do to our boss? We gotta take you out. Except Two-Face also brought a grenade with him, saying, yeah, you know what? Come at me. But if you do, we are all going to blow up. And so because of that right there, you then have the gang say, you know what? Fine, you're our new boss. What do you need us to do? Now, before Two-Face is able to go after Batman, well, he wants Batman to know that sooner or later, those two guys are going to meet. And so you had Two-Face tell his guys to take the dead body of their old boss and put it inside the body of a dinosaur skeleton. And here is the reason why. Because when Jim and Batman arrive at the scene, they find a skeleton and they find the dead body inside of it. And for Batman and Jim, they have no idea who did this. Now, when it comes to Batman, when he does try to study the dinosaur, he is then informed that this dinosaur has two different names. And the reason why, because at first, scientists believed it was a different kind of dinosaur. But recent studies were done to say that this dinosaur is actually another kind of dinosaur. And so because of that, is Batman saying, if this dino has two different names, then most likely this is Two-Face. Now, before you have Batman go after Two-Face, we do get another scene where you have Robin and you also have Alfred telling Batman, hey, stop, rest. You know, you already took down the rest of the inmates who had escaped from Arkham Asylum. Why not let the police handle Two-Face? Like, this is someone most likely they can handle. But for Batman, it's a huge no. That for him, it has to be him to take down Two-Face. Now for Robin, he does bring up the fact that Batman is just too exhausted to go after Two-Face. But once again, Batman is not trying to listen. And so you have Batman say, stop, I'm leaving, I'm gonna find Two-Face, and no, you may not come with me at all. Now, Batman was able to figure out if Two-Face was able to take out Legs' lineman, most likely Two-Face has now taken over Legs' territory, including the enforcers as well. And so you have Batman go to a bar that used to be owned by Legs to ask the bartender, where can he find Two-Face? Now, at first, the bartender is not trying to tell Batman anything at all when it comes to finding Two-Face. And so it leads into our usual thing where you have Batman beat down on a few gang members, including the bartender, to get the info he wants to be able to locate Two-Face. And so you have Batman leave to head over there. But here's the problem. You see, Two-Face wanted Batman to know where he was at, which again is the old courthouse. But there's only one way to get over to the old courthouse, and you have to go over a bridge to get over to it. And so while you have Batman heading over there in his vehicle, well, that is when you have some gang members who are now working for Two-Face blow a hole in the bridge right when Batman is about to pass over that certain part. And so when that hole is made, Batman falls through the hole into the river of Gotham City. And so then diving into the second chapter of this book, Showcase 93, issue number 8, we do see Batman fall into the river where he is able to get out of his vehicle. But here's the problem though. You see, you then have two henchmen trying to fish Batman out of the river to then take him over to Two-Face. Now, you do have Batman trying his best to fight against them, but the problem is Batman is just too weak to fight back, and so he is easily knocked out from behind and now will be transported over to Two-Face to be put on trial for the crimes that he has supposedly committed. Now, I want to jump over to Robin and Alfred. Now, those two characters, they have no idea that technically Batman has been captured by Two-Face. And so right now, is Robin believing that his main goal is to still look for any kind of information that might help Batman locate Two-Face, not knowing that Two-Face already got Batman. Now, while you have Robin doing that, he was able to learn that Two-Face was abused as a young child by his father. And apparently that abusiveness kind of brought out a darker side in a Two-Face. But Harvey Dent was able to lock away that darker side until he became a district attorney. And so for Robin, he believes that that darker side we see right now with him being Two-Face was always around, way back then when he was being abused by his father. But now we get to the point where we actually see Two-Face putting Batman on this supposed trial for the crimes that he had supposedly committed. Now we already know that for Batman, he didn't do nothing wrong, but for Two-Face, he did, because Batman betrayed Two-Face. Batman broke the pact. And so you had Two-Face ask Batman, like, hey, why did you no longer wanted to help me? Now, before we get that answer, there's something else I do want to mention. You see, for Robin, he feels like he has no idea how to find Two-Face while sitting in the Batcave. And so he believes his best option is to, well, use Alfred to go around at different locations that Two-Face used to use. Now, while you have those two characters doing that, you didn't have Alfred realize that the best option for them to check out would be the old courthouse, where everything fell apart for Two-Face. And so as we do transition back over to Batman and Two-Face, you have Batman tell Two-Face, or tell Harvey, the reason why I had to step away is because I realized that your obsession with the idea of trying to bring justice into Gotham was driving you insane, to the point where it began to take over different parts of your life. And that was a huge problem for me. And here's the thing, I began to lose confidence in you. And so I realized I had to step away because I felt like your obsession was going to lead you down a dark path, which technically it did. Now, yes, it was not Harvey's fault that he was turned into Two-Face, but at the same time, that obsession did get out of control. Now, this is Harvey Dent not really trying to take any accountability for his action. Now, at the same time, you could also say that it's Batman also not taking any accountability for his actions as well. But either way, you have Two-Face say, Batman, you're guilty. And so because you're guilty, you gotta die. Now, right when you have Two-Face try to shoot Batman, Batman is able to dodge the first bullet and break out of the chair that he was tied to. But Two-Face got another gun, and so he's all like, okay, cool, you dodged one shot, but can you dodge another? And that is when you have Robin arrive, just in time to save Batman's butt. Now, you do have Batman and Robin being able to work together, where you have Robin take down the goons that was working for Two-Face while Batman went after Two-Face, who is trying to get away. Now, for Batman and Two-Face, they do fight in a incomplete building that's still being built up at the moment. And so while you had these two characters fighting against each other, it does get to the point where it does seem like Two-Face or Batman are going to fall, or really both of them are going to fall. Now, it does get to the point where Batman was technically able to get Two-Face back up, but now Batman is hanging for his life. And so you have Two-Face trying to kill off Batman by trying to have Batman let go and fall to his death. But that is when you have Robin appear once again to this time knock out Two-Face in the back of the head. Now, Two-Face does fall over and Batman is able to grab Harvey and they are able to swing into a safer area. But after that, you didn't have Batman get onto Robin, because the Batman, he says, Robin, what you did was reckless. You had no idea if I had the ability to actually save Two-Face after he had fell over. What if I was not able to save him? He would have fallen to his death and died. That would be on you. Now for Robin, he says, but hold on though. How did I know if you had your grapple gun or not? Like, for me personally, I believed that I made the right move, because if I had not made that move, you would have fallen to your death. Because again, I had no idea if you had your gun to swing into a safer area. That right there is really important. But for Batman, he's not listening. He does not care. And so he continues to just go off on Robin. And then he walks away to go after different people who are still out there who had escaped from Arkham Asylum. And that is the moment there where Robin felt like he should have stopped Batman, because he realized Batman could no longer go on when it came to fighting against all his different enemies. But as we jump back to the present day, you didn't have Batman wake up finally to tell Robin like, no, you did not make the wrong move. What you did was actually correct, because if you had not moved in, I could have possibly died that day. And so it's a way to say, hey, Robin, I was wrong. Please forgive me, because honestly, I was too hard on you. And so we're able to see the two characters being able to rebuild their bond with one another. Now, I'm going to cover one more chapter for today's video. So we're going to jump over to Batman number 498, where we actually do pick up with Bruce Wayne now awake and talking to both Alfred and Robin. But this is a Bruce Wayne who knows that he has been defeated by Bane. Like, he cannot go on anymore. And now we jump over to Bane. And when we do, we see Bane going ahead with his game plan, being able to take over Gotham City. Now, he does go after one gang. And once he's able to get rid of their leader, he tells the rest of the gang like, hey, you guys now work for me, but our goal right now is to take out the other gangs. Now, at first, they're very confused on what Bane is trying to do here, because they believe that Bane just want to go ahead and get rid of the other gangs because he's afraid of losing his territory. But this is Bane saying, no, I'm not afraid of losing my territory. I want to take over Gotham completely. And so to do that, we got to take out the other gangs. So you guys are going to work for me to help me take them out, because Gotham is now mine. But while you have Bane out there just causing havoc across Gotham City, you didn't have Robin and Alfred both realize that Batman needs a doctor. But the thing is, they can't take him to a hospital. Now, luckily for Tim Drake, he knows a doctor, and that would be Sandra Kinsolving. Now, when it comes to Sandra, we had talked about her before. You see, she was a doctor for Tim Drake's father, a physical therapist. And so now it's Alfred and Tim both believing that she has the ability to help Bruce recover, but to make sure he has the willpower to want to actually recover. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to Sandra, she was already his doctor in the earlier parts of Knightfall, because he had a hard time getting a proper night of rest, and he had no idea why. And so he brought her in hoping they could work together to figure out why he was unable to take a proper rest. And so she knows Bruce very well. But here's the thing. By this point, Sandra has already gained feelings for Bruce Wayne. She wants to be with him, like, you know, in a romantic kind of way. Now, for Alfred and Tim, they know that they call Sandra, they're gonna need a cover story, and they're gonna say that Bruce got in a very serious car accident, that the car actually went off a cliff and did some serious damage. Now, Bruce was able to get out of the car before it went off the cliff, but that kind of story should work when it comes to bringing in Sandra to have her help Bruce recover in the proper way. Now, you do have Sandra arrive, except when she does arrive, this is Sandra saying like, hey, you know, this man has some very severe injuries. Like, he needs some good doctors and an actual good medical equipment to actually help him recover. Now, for Alfred, it's kind of like, you're a doctor, so there we go. And two, I already called up Lucius Fox, so I was able to grab some medical equipment that you can use to help Bruce Wayne recover. Now, for Sandra, she's very quick on realizing that Bruce Wayne injuries do not line up with the story that Alfred was telling her. It's all like, yes, you may tell me that this man's car went off a cliff, that this man was able to jump out of the car before it went off the cliff. But the problem is his injuries don't line up with that story. But at the same time, for Sandra, she does not care. I mean, yes, she does care, but for her, it's kind of like, listen, Bruce Wayne is a mystery that needs to be solved. And I love the idea of trying to solve different kinds of mysteries. So I'm going to stick around to help Bruce recover, but at the same time, hoping to figure out who this man truly is. Because like I said, this is someone who does have feelings for Bruce Wayne and was hoping to actually be with him. Now, after you have Sandra leave, you have Robin go over to Bruce Wayne and say, hey man, listen, when it comes to Gotham, it's complete chaos right there. Like right now, the city needs a Batman. And the thing is, you can't be Batman. And Bruce Wayne, he actually agrees. But the problem is, who can be Batman? So at first, for Tim Drake, is all like, hey, let's call up Dick Grayson, Nightwing. He can be Batman. But the problem is, around his time in DC Comics, Dick and Bruce were not really on good terms. And for Bruce Wayne, Dick is right now his own man, away from the Bat family, which means he can't be Batman, which only leaves one more person left who could become Batman, and that would be John Paul Valley. Now for Bruce, he feels like this is okay, but he wants to make sure that Robin understands that John Paul Valley will not go after Bane at all. Bane is for Bruce to handle down the road. And so you have Tim leave to go meet up with John Paul Valley. Now, I want to jump over to Selina Kyle. And the reason why, because she was contacted by Bane, and Bane wanted her to actually, work for him in his brand new empire. He wants her to go out of her way to steal different kinds of items, but to also steal info that he can use down the road. And really for him, the info is more important than items that she steals. Now, for Selina, she does agree to work with him, but not for him. It's her saying, yeah, I will help you out. I'll be your partner, but in no way I actually work for you. And so she walks away. The last couple pages, we actually do see Batman and Robin, really John Paul Batman, being able to head over to the GCPD to meet Jim Gordon as the new Batman for the time being. Now, before we are actually able to see more of that conversation, we jump back over to Bruce Wayne. And Bruce kind of wonders that, maybe he should be with Sandra Kinsolving, but also maybe he should tell her his actual true identity, the idea that he is Batman. And this is where What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over Batman Knightfall, but now we have to jump over to some tie-ins. We're going to cover a 3-part story arc that actually took place right in the middle of Batman Knightfall over in Shadow of the Bat in issues number 16, 17, and 18. This 3-part story arc was actually called God of Fear. It's all about the Scarecrow, but technically this is the first adventure of John Paul Valley being Batman after Bruce Wayne got his back broken by Bane. And so of course John Paul Valley is trying to pick up where Bruce Wayne left off at. But this 3-part story arc also does a great job in showing us that John Paul Valley is not completely ready to be Batman. And you see what I mean as we go through today's video. And so getting into the opening pages for today's video, we actually pick up in Gotham University, where we do pick up with a group of students hearing about a new experiment going on at their campus. Now, if they're able to participate in this experiment, they'll get $50. Now, some of the kids, they are automatically down with the idea of participating in this experiment. But one kid does not want to, and that would be Harold. Now, Harold is going to be somewhat important in this three-part story arc, and so he wants to just leave and go home and study. But then two bullies say, no, you're going to go because you need to know how to have fun. Now, honestly, they don't care if this kid has fun. They're just being bullies trying to force him to take part of this experiment. Now, before we are able to move on a tad bit farther with this story, I do want to establish that for Jonathan Crane, aka the Scarecrow, the idea of him going back to a university makes a lot of sense. And the reason why, because it does tie back to his actual origin when he was a professor. Now, when all the kids do show up for this experiment, they realize that they're sooner or later going to put on some helmets. They're going to take their minds and bodies into a virtual reality. Now, when it comes to Jonathan Crane, he'll be the man in charge of this experiment. But of course, he's going by a different name because everyone in Gotham knows that Jonathan Crane is Scarecrow. And so he's going by the name Professor Rance. And so you do have all the kids sit down and they do get ready to, well, take part of this experiment. But now we have to jump over to John Paul Valley. Now, this is the reason why I say we're going to see that John Paul Valley might not be ready to be Batman. And here is the reason why. So Bruce Wayne had a rule when it came to Wayne Manor to not wear your costume outside the Batcave when you're back at home. Only in the Batcave where you should be wearing your Batman, Robin, or whatever outfit you wear in the Bat family. But once you're up in the upper level in Wayne Manor, you're back in your regular clothes. Well, John Paul Valley does not care at all. This man is standing outside on the balcony as Batman. And Tim says, hey, whoa, bro, listen, Bruce had a rule, no costumes up here. But for John Paul Valley, he does not care. He said, listen, as we all know right now, Bruce Wayne is no longer Batman. I am now Batman, which means I do things my way. And by the way, Robin, I don't need your help tonight when it comes to taking out different bad guys in Gotham City. And so you have John Paul Valley just walk away like that. And Tim is now very concerned in the idea of John Paul being the Batman. But now we have to jump over to another character that is going to play a role in this actual story, and that will be Lonnie Mackin. Now, Lonnie Mackin is better known as Anarchy. Now, we do see him breaking out of juvenile detention because, well, this kid just wants to get back out there and cause chaos in Gotham, but in a different kind of way. Because remember, when it comes to Anarchy, he's really more the idea that the people are not actually free, that the government is controlling them in all kinds of ways. And so his goal is to bring down the government of Gotham and possibly the rest of the country so that people can actually be free. Either way, this young man has just broken out and he's now also on the loose alongside with Scarecrow. Now, getting back over to Scarecrow, we actually do see him arrive at this classroom to begin his experiment. Now, remember, he's going by a different name, calling himself Professor Rance. Now, when he does arrive, he can tell that most of the people in the room are very excited about the idea of being able to participate in this experiment, except for one, and that would be Harold. Now, while you have everyone else putting on their helmets to go into his virtual reality, Harold does not. And the reason why? Because he recognized Scarecrow. He's all like, your name is not Professor Rance, you're Jonathan Crane. You're the Scarecrow. And the reason why I know who you are because you're the man who killed my father. Now, that is going to be somewhat important for the rest of this book. Either way, you have Scarecrow use a nice dose of fear toxin to make Harold fall in line and put on the helmet. Now, when it comes to the assistant teacher for this classroom, Miss Stopes, she begins to freak out as well, like, wait a second, he just called you the Scarecrow. Is that true? And he says, no, it's not true. But he also hits her with some fear toxin as well. And then puts a helmet on her so her mind will go into a virtual reality as well. Now, we do learn a tad bit about what's exactly happening to the people who are in that virtual reality. You see, what the Scarecrow is doing is that every single person is right now seeing their worst fears over and over again as a way to break their minds down so that sooner or later he will be able to take over their minds. So for example, for Harold, the young boy who said the Scarecrow had killed his father, well, right now his worst fear is seeing the Scarecrow killing his father again. And so this man is going to relive that worst moment of his life over and over again as a way to have his mind be broken by the Scarecrow. Now, what Scarecrow is actually doing when it comes to all these different people having to relive their worst fears over and over again, he does appear in the virtual reality as some kind of savior, saying, listen, I can save you from all these nightmares that you are currently experiencing. But if I do that, you have to obey me. It's a way for the Scarecrow to hypnotize people, to make them fall in line, saying, hey, listen, right now you're seeing your worst fears. If you don't want to see that, you have to obey me, and I'll make sure you'll never see those fears ever again. And just like that, these people are under his control. Now for Scarecrow, he wants to make sure that everyone is under his control. And so he tells one of the students to grab a gun and shoot his friend right in the head. And bam, just like that, the kid does it. And so it really shows that Scarecrow experiment actually works, that he now has a small size army under his control for his big plan to come for Gotham down the road. Now I want to jump back over to Anarchy, and here is the reason why. So you have Anarchy right now watching Batman take out another gang. Now while doing that, Anarchy says, I just realized something. Batman has to go. And the reason why? Because Batman is the reason why Gotham the way it is right now. Because with Batman going around saying that Gotham is his, that he is the protector of Gotham, now all these different supervillains are trying to challenge him as a way to take Gotham away from him. He is the reason why we have the Joker, Two-Face, the Riddler, Bane right now, Mr. Freeze, and the list goes on. And so for Anarchy, he believes if he's able to get rid of Batman, then most likely all the bad guys will go away as well. And so now his goal is to kill off the Bat. Now, getting back over to Scarecrow, you have Scarecrow right now telling us that his big plan is not done just yet when it comes to attacking Gotham. But he does explain why he's trying to attack Gotham this time. Because when it comes to Scarecrow, this man loves to read books, right? Knowledge is power. But he realized that in all the different cultures out there, there is no god of fear. And so for Scarecrow, he believes that he should be the one to take up that mantle to become the god of fear. And so for Scarecrow, he says, listen, what I am going to do is spread my fear toxin across Gotham City, because right now all I have is a small classroom size of people to actually praise me. I need more people if I want to become a god in the world. And so for that, I need to go ahead and bring Gotham to its knees. And so all the kids earlier that he was able to take over their minds, they're now dressed like him. And so now we're going to see a Scarecrow army go out there to hopefully build up the army of Scarecrow so that he'll become the god of fear. Now, as we dive into the second chapter, we see Scarecrow telling his people to go their separate ways to different locations across Gotham City to begin his plan. Now, before we actually dive into what each person is going to do, you have Scarecrow say, wait a second, Harold, you're not going anywhere at all, because earlier you told me that I killed your father, but I don't remember you. Now, once he gets a good look at Harold, he's all like, wait a second, I do remember you. I did kill your father. Your father was the first person I ever killed. Like, that right there is a huge achievement for me. But your father did stand in my way. Matter of fact, he had something I wanted from him. And I'm pretty sure when he died, you were the one to inherit all his stuff. So I'm hoping you had the things I actually wanted from him in the past. Now, getting back over to John Paul Valley, we actually do see him beating down on some thugs. Now, this is another example of the idea that maybe John Paul Valley is not properly ready to be Batman. And here's the reason why. So, once he's done beating down on these thugs, he tells them, if I see you in the streets in the next month, even if you're not doing anything at all, I am going to beat you down even worse than I did right here at this moment. So if I was you, I would get the heck out of here and stay away from Gotham City. And it really shows that this is John Paul Valley just being more brutal than Batman was in the past. But at the same time, what if his ways is actually the answer to make sure that Gotham is protected? But now we have to jump over to Harvey Bullock and Renee Montoya, two officers who work for the GCPD. Now, while they're at Gotham University, they're beginning to question the dean like, hey, you guys should have done a full-on background check on this man before you allowed him to be on your campus. Now, the dean says it's not my job. It was someone else's job. That was Miss Stokes' job to do the background check. But as we saw earlier, she was also hit with fear toxin, and now she's also part of Scarecrow's army. Now, you also have the dean say, hey, Scarecrow left a tape behind, but not for you guys, for Batman. Now, Harvey Bullock does not want to wait at all when it comes to Batman to watch this tape, and so he begins to play it. Now, no one knows that John Paul Valley Batman is actually in the room watching the tape with them. Now, on this tape is Scarecrow saying, hey, my plan is not done yet. Like, by the end of the night, millions of people in Gotham City are going to be hit with my fear toxin. Sooner or later, I'll become their god because I will be the only person who can save them from their worst fears. I'll become the god of fear. Now, for our heroes, Batman, really, he's kind of like, great. My first night out as Batman, and now I gotta find Scarecrow before this man is able to bring Gotham to its knees. Now, I want to jump back over to Anarchy, and here's the reason why. So we get another example of the idea of Anarchy saying, Gotham City is horrible because of Batman. Because you have Anarchy going after a gang called the Anti-Bat Gang. Now, the Anti-Bat Gang is just going against everything that Batman stands for, but they're also hurting innocent people as well. Now, for Anarchy, that right there is not okay. Innocent people should not be hurt at all. But at the same time, he blames Batman for this gang. He's all like, look, because Batman's here in Gotham City and he claimed to be the sworn protector of this city, now you have all these gangs who go against what he stands for. And now innocent people are getting hurt. And so this gives Anarchy another reason why to kill off Batman. But now I'm going to jump back over to Scarecrow. Now, earlier you had Scarecrow tell us like, hey, I killed your father because he had something I wanted. But technically, there's a tad bit more to that story. Now, you do have Scarecrow tell Harold, before I'm able to tell you why I exactly killed off your father, let me go ahead and give you my full origin story. So we do learn that Jonathan Crane loved the idea of causing fear into other people and other things as well. But also, he loved to read. And so because those two things right there combined, he said, you know what? I'll become a professor in psychology. Now, while doing that, he had different people at the university begin to talk bad about him because the way he acted and the way he looked. Matter of fact, most of the staff said he looked like a scarecrow. And so because of that, he said, you know what? I'll become a villain, but the scarecrow will be my symbol. Now, when it came to Harold's father, he said, your father has some books that I wanted, but also your father was suing my business partner, and I told your father to drop the case, but your dad did not want to do that. And so I had to shoot him. And so now I finally have the books I wanted, but also your dad got out of my way when it came to that case with him trying to sue my partner. Now, we do learn that when it comes to Scarecrow, he told each member of his army to go to different venues across Gotham City, but wait until the right volume of people are inside those venues. Once the entire building is full, go ahead and release your pouch that's holding fear toxin, because then everyone in your building is going to be affected by my fear toxin. And so once you have the clock hit 10, well, hey, it begins. Everybody in those buildings are now being affected by fear toxin. Now, Batman, he's trying his best to help out what he can, but the problem is there's too many people who are infected. Now, really, this is just a small portion of Gotham right now being affected. We are not talking about the idea of the entire city. And so if John Paul Valley is right now struggling with just a small portion of people being affected, what's going to happen when the entire city is infected? Now, you also have Anarchy trying to help out as well. And really, he believes that he found the Scarecrow. But the problem is, when he goes after that person, he comes to find out, no, it's not the Scarecrow. It's just one of his members pretending to be him. And so now Batman and Anarchy had the same goal. They have to stop Scarecrow. But for Anarchy, it's Scarecrow and the Batman. And so as we dive into the opening pages of the final chapter, we actually do pick up with Scarecrow arriving at one of the buildings of the GCPD. Now, when he does walk in, he says, hey, you know what? This is me turning myself in. Now, the police, they kind of know like, that's too hard to believe because you're the Scarecrow, like you're one of Batman's main bad guys. There's no way you'll give up this easily. And they're right, because on the back of his belt, he has more pouches or containers that's holding fear toxin. And of course, they release inside the building. And so now more and more people are being affected by the fear toxin. Now, we also kind of find out that this is actually one of the members of Scarecrow's army going into the building. This is not the real Scarecrow at all. Now, getting back over to John Paul Valley, we actually see him going to different locations across Gotham City to find different devices that were left behind by the Scarecrow. These devices are being used to set up a hologram that's playing a message to tell Gotham by the end of the night, the entire city is going to be hit with the fear toxin. And so, of course, people are now panicking across Gotham City. And so this is John Paul Valley saying, you know what? I'm trying my best to find all those different devices so that the hologram will stop playing that message. Now, for John Paul Valley, his main focus is to go after Bane. But he says, you know what? One, I promised Bruce I would not go after Bane. And two, the main goal right now is Scarecrow. Bane is not doing anything big at the moment to catch my attention. Now, we jump over to Scarecrow. Now, this man is very upset about the fact that different news channels out there are now calling him crazy, calling him a maniac. And even though you have more and more people beginning to be affected by the fear toxin, he was actually hoping that by this point, most of Gotham would look at him as the god of fear and begin to praise him, begin to listen to him. But instead, they're calling him a maniac. And so he is very upset about that fact right there. Now, he is complaining to Harold. And the thing is, Harold has no choice but to go ahead and listen because he's still under the Scarecrow's control. Like, yes, he's able to think for himself, but his body and his mind technically is under the control of Scarecrow. But now we have to jump over to Jim Gordon. Now, this is Jim getting a call from Scarecrow. And the Scarecrow is saying, hey, Jim, listen, so I'm going to need you to tell everyone in Gotham City to begin to praise me like the god I truly am, the god of fear. Now, for Jim, he's kind of like, hold up, you want me, the police commissioner, to find a way to make everyone praise you like you're some kind of god. And for Scarecrow, he's all like, yep, I need you to do that. So get on it. Now for Jim, he's kind of wondering, how in the world am I, the police commissioner, going to pull that kind of stunt off? But for Scarecrow, it's more of just find a way and do it. Now, he does him to call up, and you have Jim call all officers on the radio saying, hey guys, listen, the Scarecrow just called me, and he just told me that he may be in the center of the city. If he's there, he is going to release the gas there. We gotta stop him. But now we have to jump over to the real Scarecrow, where you have Scarecrow telling Harold that he lied to Jim Gordon about the idea of releasing the gas at the very center of Gotham. Instead, he's going to release the fear toxin in the water supply instead. That is a better way to actually infect the entire city. Now, Anarchy is nearby, and he sees the real Scarecrow, but he wants Batman there as well, because if Batman is there with Scarecrow, then he'll be able to take both of them out. And so Batman does arrive. Now, you have Scarecrow trying his best to fight against Batman, but of course, Batman is easily winning. But why you have the two characters fighting against each other, well, that is when you have Anarchy throw a net over them both, and then the net begins to shock them as a way to hopefully knock them out. Now, you do have Anarchy tell Batman, like, this is all your fault. Like, you are the reason why Gotham the way it is. It's your fault that this city is completely falling apart. Now, while you have Anarchy telling Batman that, you have Scarecrow tell Harold, hey, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and remove his mask. He's talking about Anarchy. And the reason why, because with his mask being gone, the gas is just close enough, it will actually affect Anarchy. And just like that, with the mask gone, he is now seeing his worst fears. Now, Batman is as well, but Batman is able to overcome his worst fears. And the reason why? Because of Saint Dumas. Thanks to John Paul Valley's father and Saint Dumas' training, he was able to overcome the fears of what he's being shown with the fear toxin. And so because of that, he was able to beat down on Scarecrow and also be able to take down Anarchy as well. Now, you have Anarchy one more time tell Batman, like, this is still your fault. Like, you're the reason why Gotham is falling apart. But you have John Paul Valley say, stay out of my way. If I see you again, there's going to be some more trouble. And Batman leaves. And so that ends today's story. And this is the end of today's video. What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over Batman Knightfall. And really, we have reached a point where we are going to wrap up our coverage over Batman Knightfall. Now, by this point in Knightfall, we're gonna see really Bruce Wayne leaving behind Wayne Manor for a special kind of mission. And we'll talk more about this mission as we dive into today's video. But we're also going to see John Paul Valley become the sole protector of Gotham City because Bruce Wayne is leaving. That means someone has to protect Gotham. Somebody has to be Batman. And right now it's John Paul Valley. Now, this is not the first time we've seen John Paul Valley as Batman. In the earlier parts of our coverage over Knightfall, we had different moments where we had seen John Paul being Batman. But now it's all his to use. He is the Batman of Gotham City. And so as we dive into the opening pages for today's video, we actually pick up with Batman, John Paul Valley, and also Tim Drake Robin beating down on some low-grade thugs. Now, here's the thing. We had established this in our last video that even though John Paul Valley was really happy about the idea of becoming Batman, we already saw early on our last video that he might not be ready to be Batman. And the reason why, because he's more aggressive than Bruce Wayne is. And so really, when it comes to Batman and Robin, they are able to beat down on the thugs. And really, the thugs were easily defeated. But John Paul Valley is not trying to stop. He's trying to go even farther to make sure these thugs do not try to come back and be some kind of thug again down the road in Gotham City. Now, for Robin, he's kind of like, listen, I get the idea. You want to make sure these guys stay off the streets, but the way you're doing it is completely wrong. Like, you were beating down on that man to the point where I felt like you were going to kill him. Now, for John Paul Valley, he ignores what Robin says and he walks away. But now we have to jump over to Bruce Wayne. And this begins the process of us seeing Bruce Wayne leaving Gotham City behind for a special mission. Now, by this point in Knightfall, Bruce Wayne had already lost to Bane. His back is broken thanks to Bane. And so this man is currently in a wheelchair. By this point, though, this is Bruce Wayne trying his best to build a relationship with his physical therapist, better known as Sandra Kinsolving. Because in our last couple videos, we had established the idea that maybe Bruce Wayne is going to leave behind the whole idea of being Batman to be with her. But if he does stay, he has to tell her that he is Batman, because this man might have true feelings for her. Now, when he does call her office, her assistant tells Bruce, oh, Sandra is currently next door at your neighbor's house dealing with another patient. And that would be Jack Drake, the father to Tim Drake. You see, in an earlier story arc, Jack got severely injured. And so it was really questionable if he would be able to recover. But thankfully, Sandra came in and she's been trying her best to help the man to recover. But now, because Bruce knows that he can find Sandra next door, you have Bruce say, you know what? Let me go over there to see Sandra, and also I can see Jack as well. Except when Bruce head over there, he does see a few guards outside. But these guards don't work for Jack. And on top of that, these guys actually, are very armed. And so for Bruce, he believes that this must be another attack being done by Bane. That Bane might have been able to figure out that Robin was Tim Drake. And really, speaking of Bane, we see him right now talking to his gang about the idea of trying to take over the different rackets in Gotham City. So like drugs, smuggling, gambling, extortion, car thief, bank, burglary, and the rackets go on and on and on. This is Bane saying sooner or later Gotham is going to be mine. Gotham is technically already mine, but I gotta make sure I have complete control over the entire city. But getting back over to John Paul Valley and Robin, we see our two heroes heading over to a location that's being used as a meeting spot for all the top crime bosses in Gotham City. Now, for Tim Drake, all those crime bosses are no longer the top crime bosses. And the reason why, because Bane has now complete control over Gotham City. And for John Paul Valley, he already knew that. He said, listen, I could possibly use these guys as a way to get over to Bane and take Bane down. Let's not forget though, Bruce told John Paul Valley, leave Bane alone. Once I'm able to recover, I'll take Bane on myself. But this is John Paul Valley saying, no, I'm Batman now, and I'll do things my way, which means if I want to go after Bane, I'll go after Bane to get my job done. And so now his goal is to use the crime bosses to get to Bane. But getting back over to Bruce, we see Bruce trying his best to hopefully save Sandra and Jack from being kidnapped by these armed guys. But the problem is, Bruce really can't take all these guys down because technically he's still handicapped. Now, he does try his best to take out one of the guards, but honestly, he's not at full strength. And so even though he was able to take down one guard, he kind of realized that this kind of mission is most likely not going to be easy. And really, he might not be successful at all either. But now I want to shift our focus back over to that meeting spot where we actually pick up with Tony. Tony was originally the top crime boss in Gotham City until he had a meeting with Bane. And Bane said, hey, I'm now in charge of all of Gotham, but I'm gonna need you to work for me to get the other crime bosses to fall in line. Now, if you don't do that, I'm telling you right now, I will, do some bad things to your children. And so Tony, unfortunately, has to basically get the other crime bosses to fall in line to save the lives of his children. And so that is why you have all these crime bosses here for this meeting. It's him trying his best to convince them to fall in line to work for Bane. But then in the middle of the meeting, you have Batman and Robin jump in. Really just Batman at first. Now I want to jump back over to Bruce for a brief moment. And the reason why, because I want to show you guys that he does fail when it comes to trying to save Jack and Sandra from being kidnapped by these guys. Now, you have Bruce trying his best, but these guys are at full strength. These guys are not handicapped. And honestly, Bruce is by himself. There are at least like 3 or 4 guys. And so they were able to take down Bruce, grab Sandra, grab Jack, and get the heck out of there. And so, yes, Bruce did fail when it came to this particular mission. But getting back over to Batman and Robin, we see our two heroes being able to take down all the guys at the meeting, which honestly, that is great. But then you have Batman chase after Tony, the guy who was working for Bane already. And so you have Batman realize that if he wants to get to Bane, most likely he has to use Tony as a way to get to Bane. And so you have John Paul ask Tony, what does Bane have on you that he's making you work for him? And you have Tony say, he has my children. If I don't help him, he is going to kill my kids. And so because of that, you then have Batman realize that he can use Tony as a way to get to Bane. But now we jump into Batman number 499, where we actually pick up with Batman, John Paul Valley, beating down on Tony. Now this is John Paul Valley saying, hey, listen, I want to make sure that you are going to work with me here when it comes to, you know, getting close to Bane. Now for Robin, he hates the idea to see Batman beating down on somebody because Bruce Wayne didn't do that. Bruce Wayne scared the living crap out of you to make you work alongside with him. But to beat down on you, that's not Bruce Wayne at all. But this is not Bruce Wayne. This is John Paul Valley. And he is saying, I'm going to do things my way. If you don't like it, then step off. Go somewhere else. But just know that Bruce chose me to be Batman. And so now it's time for me to handle things my way. And so you do have Tony agree to help Batman get close to Bane. But getting back over to Bruce Wayne, we do pick up with Bruce not giving up on his mission to save Sandra and Jack after being kidnapped. Now he was able to grab one of the masks of the guys he fought against earlier. On that mask, he's able to get a blood sample. Now with that blood sample, he does learn that that guy recently got a vaccine to help fight against malaria. And that's the first clue that Bruce can use to hopefully figure out where those guys went to with Sandra and Jack. But getting back over to Bane, you have Bane get word that apparently Batman is back out there in Gotham City. Now Bane knows there's no way it's actually Bruce Wayne being Batman because this guy had just broke Bruce's back earlier in Knightfall. He now knows it has to be John Paul Valley. And let's not forget, when it came to Knightfall earlier on, we saw Bane go up against John Paul Valley when he was wearing the Batman mask one time. And so Bane knows about John Paul and he calls John Paul the Pretender. And so for Bane, he says there's no way that Batman is out there. Now he does get a call that Tony was able to get all the other crime bosses in Gotham City to fall in line. And so he was hoping to get his kids back. Now for Bane, he kind of realized that this could be a trap. And so he tells his gang, you guys are going to go your way to return the kids to Tony. But just in case, I was you, I'll be prepared because Batman might be there as well. This could be a trap that was made for me, but I won't be there. You guys will be there. But now we pick up the moment where we're going to see Bruce Wayne leaving Gotham City because when we jump back over to the Batcave, you have Bruce Wayne call up Oracle, where she was able to tell him all like, hey, listen, this kind of vaccine came from this particular country, better known as Santa Prisca. Now, for Batman, he knows about that country because of the drug Venom. And so for Batman, he realized he has to go there if he wants to be able to save Jack and also Sandra. Except right after he decided that he was going to leave, John Paul Valley had to return back to the cave. And you have Bruce say, hey, everything is yours. Like, I'm leaving on a special mission. I can't tell you where I'm going, but listen, I'll be back in a few days, weeks, months, who knows, but I'm gone. But everything is now yours for the time being. And so just like that, Bruce Wayne is now gone. That now John Paul Valley is technically Batman for Gotham City. He is the sole protector of Gotham. Everything in Wayne Manor, the Batcave, belongs to him until Bruce comes back. Now, something else I do want to mention is that when it comes to John Paul Valley, he used to belong to the Order of St. Dumas. Now, I don't want to dive too deep into the Order of St. Dumas, but I do want to say that when it came to the Order, they made sure to turn John Paul Valley into their own personal assassin, their own avenging angel, better known as Azrael. Now, really, his father was the previous Azrael, and his dad made sure that his son would be ready for the role when the time came. You see, when it came to John Paul Valley, when he was young, his father had put things in his mind kind of help Azrael get ready when the time came for him to take up the role. Something called the system. With the system, it would make sure that John Paul Valley knew everything about the Order, but also knew how to fight like a true avenging angel. So when the Order needs him, he would be ready. The problem is sometimes that system will take over his mind and body. And so while you have John Paul in the cave, the system comes on and he begins to sketch up new gauntlets that he wants to wear when he's out there being Batman. And so when he is able to regain control of his mind and body, he realized the system must have taken over and said, hey man, listen, use these sketches right here in your next battle when you're out there as Batman. And even though this is John Paul Valley want to move away from the system, he kind of agrees with the system that these kind of gauntlets could be very handy. Now you have Robin also return back to the Batcave. When he does run into, well, of course, John Paul Valley. And he sees that John Paul wearing some new gauntlets that he's going to use out in battle now. And of course, we already know that for John Paul, his main goal is to go after Bane. Bane's the top guy right now. If you want to make sure that Gotham is protected, then you have to go after the top guy. You start from the top and you work your way down to John Paul Valley's idea. And so you have Robin say, no, Bruce told us to leave him alone. But again, you have John Paul say, no, I'm now in charge. Bruce is gone. It's up to me. I'm Batman. He chose me to be Batman. Not you, not anybody else but me. And you have John Paul leave to go find Bane now. And so now we jump over to the trade deal where you have Tony meeting up with Bane's gang to get his kids back because he told them like, hey, I was able to get the rest of the crime bosses to fall in line and work for Bane. Except we already knew it was a trap by Batman to hopefully get Bane. But instead, he'll get the top 3 guys who work underneath Bane. Now, this is Batman being very dangerous. And the reason why, because he didn't make sure the kids were in a safe spot before trying to fight against Bane's crew. Now, luckily for Batman, Robin came in and he was able to help the kids get to safety while Batman fights against the 3 members who work for Bane's crew. Now, once you have Batman being able to take them down, you have Robin once again saying, that was dangerous. You didn't make sure the kids were actually safe. But you have John Paul say, oh no, I knew you were coming. I saw you. I knew that if I couldn't save them, at least you would. And so for Robin, that's still not okay because that was just pure luck. It was not planned out. They were not 100% sure that Robin could save the kids. But for John Paul, everything's good and he leaves. Now, when you have the two guys being able to get back to the Batcave, that is when you have John Paul tell Tim Drake that Bruce and Alfred are gone. They went on some kind of special trip. I have no idea what kind of trip, but hey, he told me that I'm allowed to move in. And so now the Batcave is mine, just letting you know. Now for Robin, he's wondering, where in the world did Bruce and Alfred go to? Now, the very last page of this chapter alone, we get two different things happening on the same page. First, we do learn that Selina Kyle was able to sneak onto the private jet of Bruce Wayne and Alfred because she was also trying to head over to Santa Prisca, but the problem was there was no other flights heading that way. But she got word that a private jet that belonged to Bruce Wayne was heading that way, and so she was able to get on his jet. And the last thing we see in this chapter alone is that there was a note left behind to tell Tim that Bruce and Alfred had left for a special kind of trip, a special kind of mission to kind of get Jack and Sandra back. And so as we dive into Detective Comics issue number 666, we now pick up with Batman, John Paul Valley, meeting up with Jim Gordon. Now, this is not the first time these two characters are meeting one another, but it is the first time where it's them meeting and now John Paul is officially going to be Batman until Bruce Wayne comes back. And so these two guys are going to have to work together when it comes to protecting Gotham. And so for John Paul, he wants to know if the GCPD were able to get any kind of information out of the three guys who used to work for Bane's crew to hopefully figure out where Bane is at. But you have Jim tell Batman like, nah, man, listen, like, those guys are very loyal. They're not going to tell us anything at all when it comes to Bane and where he's hiding out at. Now, for John Paul, he feels like he has another way to figure out how to find Bane. And really, we get a good look at Zombie, Trog, and also Bird really showing how loyal they are to Bane because you have Harvey Bullock just trying his best to get some piece of information that can tell them where is Bane hiding out at. But those guys are very loyal to Bane, but at the same time, they're kind of scared of Bane because if they had went out of their way to tell some kind of information about where Bane is at, most likely Bane would have killed them. And so they're scared of him, but at the same time, very loyal to him. But then out of nowhere, somebody begins the process of helping these guys get out of the prison they're locked up in. Now, there is a note with the package to help them escape. And with that note, at the very end, it was signed by somebody with initial B. Now, for them, they believe, okay, the initial B must be for Bane. He's out there right now trying to help us escape from the prison, which they're actually able to do. But in reality, that note did not come from Bane. That note came from Batman. The initial B was for him. And so when you have all three of them being able to get out of the prison, they're now heading back over to Bane. But they have no idea they're being watched by Batman. He's all like, yes, lead me back to your boss so I am able to finally take him down. But now we have to jump over to Tim Drake. Now this is Tim really feeling like he's on his own now because Bruce is gone. Alfred is gone. John Paul Valley wants nothing to do with him at all. And then on top of that, Dick Grayson is not around either. Because around this time in DC Comics, Bruce and Dick were not really talking to one another. Dick was doing his own thing out there being Nightwing. And so for Tim, he's kind of like, this sucks. It's just me here. And on top of that, right now we got John Paul Valley being a crazy Batman out there about to make things a whole lot worse for Gotham. But now I want to jump back over to Bane's crew because you have Bane's crew arrive back at Bane's place. And when they do, they're like, hey boss, thanks for breaking us out of prison. Like, thanks to you, man, we got a free life again. Thanks, boss. And you have Bane say, I didn't break you guys out of prison. What are you talking about? And they're like, no, boss, you did. Matter of fact, the stuff you gave us came with a note with your initial on there saying B, like B for Bane. And you have Bane say, you guys are idiots. Idiots. That was not me. That was Batman. And bam, just like that, you have John Paul Batman just come through the window and begin to fight against Bane and his crew. Now, his crew are easily defeated, but now it comes down to him and Bane. Now, for John Paul Valley, he truly does believe that he should be able to take down Bane because he's now going up against a Batman who's not physically and mentally drained. Because remember, when it came to Bruce Wayne fighting against Bane earlier in Knightfall, well, Bruce was physically and mentally drained because we saw in the earlier parts of Knightfall, Bruce was unable to get a proper night of rest. That man was physically and mentally drained. And when Knightfall truly kicked off, he used the last amount of energy he had in those battles against the other members of his rogue gallery. And so when it came to Bruce fighting against Bane, he had no energy left, making him an easy target for Bane to take out. But John Paul's saying, no, it's completely different. I'm not going to be an easy target for you because I'm not physically and mentally drained. And at first, it really does seem like maybe John Paul is right, that he might be able to take Bane down. But the problem is Bane is still just too strong for John Paul. Bane knows how to fight. And so at the end of this issue, it does look like that John Paul might fall to his death as soon as Bane is able to cut the rope that's holding John Paul up in the air. But now it's time for us to dive into the final chapter of Knightfall, Batman number 500. Now, this was the book that basically said, hey, Bruce is gone. John Paul Valley is going to be Batman. Matter of fact, this is the book where we see John Paul Valley give us his own version of the bat suit. Now, with all that being said, though, it does pick up the last chapter left off at, where you do have Batman still fighting against Bane. Really, it's Batman right now hanging for his life. Now, he's able to get down safe enough to actually survive the fall. But Bane knows that he's not really up to battling against Batman. And so you have Bane dip the heck out of there. Now, for Batman, John Paul, he does try his best to follow Bane, but Bane is able to get away. And so for John Paul, he knows that this is not over, that once Bane is able to recover, sooner or later, he'll try to come after Batman. And really, it's John Paul saying, I hope he does, because we need a final battle between each other so I can get rid of him once and for all. Now, getting back over to Tim Drake, we do get a page where we do see him calling up Ariana. Now, Ariana was a close girlfriend in the early days of Robin comics. And really, it's him calling her saying like, hey, I miss you, but unfortunately, I can't see you. Because this is Robin saying like, hey, Gotham needs my protection. I don't know if I can really trust Azrael being Batman right now. And so even though he was the one who called up this girl to be all like, hey, I miss you, I still can't see you at the moment. And he hangs the call up. But now we have to jump over to the GCPD, where we pick up with Lieutenant Kitch and Harvey Bullock. Now, when it comes to Kitch, we kind of learn early on that this is a guy who wants to follow the book when it comes to being a cop. He hates the idea of trying to break away from the book, especially the idea of working with a vigilante like Batman. But when it comes to Kitch, he does arrive at the scene where Batman had fought against Bane, where of course the three members who worked for Bane are still there and they're now being arrested and about to head back to prison. Now for Kitch, he is told by Bullock that Bullock feels like there's going to be one big battle coming down the road between Batman and Bane, round 2, or really round 3, I guess. But really, it's Bullock saying that that next round might be very bloody because it's Batman and Bane coming out with everything they got. He just knows it's coming. Now, you also have Bullock telling Kitch, hey, the mayor wants to talk to you. And the reason why, because the mayor is currently not talking to Gordon for other reasons we saw early on in Knightfall. And so he wants to talk to you. And you have Kitch head there automatically. Now, we do get a few more pages where we do see Robin once again trying to tell John Paul Valley like, hey, what you are doing is completely wrong. The whole idea of using Batman goes completely against what Bruce Wayne had built with the idea of Batman. Like, you are just as brutal as Bane is. You're just as dark as Bane is. Like, that's crazy and wild. Why are you doing that? But it's John Paul saying he has no choice. If he wants to be able to take down Bane, he has to get on Bane's level. He has to get dark as Bane, just as brutal as Bane, to make sure that Bane does not come back once he's able to beat Bane down. And so you have John Paul once again tell Robin, like, hey, just leave me alone and let me do me. Like, let me do Batman in my own kind of way. Now, I want to jump over to the mayor just real briefly. And the reason why, because you have the mayor telling Kitch, like, hey, listen, the reason why I called you here is to tell you that even though I like the idea of you following the book when it comes to being a police officer, I kind of also love the idea of what Batman is doing as a vigilante, because earlier on in Knightfall, the Joker and Scarecrow had kidnapped the mayor. It was Batman who saved the mayor from one of the worst nights of his life, probably the worst night of his life. But either way, he was saved by Batman, and he understands why Gotham needs Batman around. And so even though he loves the idea of Kitch following the book, he's telling Kitch, if you see Batman right now fighting against one of his rogue gallery, let him take care of it. Let him do what he needs to do. Because honestly, I feel like we're not prepared to take down those kinds of criminals. But now we have to jump over to Jim Gordon. And the reason why, because this is Jim kind of realizing that something has changed with Batman. Now, he has no idea that Bruce Wayne Batman is gone. That right now is John Paul Batman out there. But at the same time, he kind of realized that things are going to be different in Gotham. But also because usually when Bruce being Batman, he does work very well with Jim. They were able to build a bond with one another. But when it comes to John Paul, it does seem like he's not really trying to build that bond with Jim. And so John Paul is not telling Jim what he has plans when it comes to bringing down Bane. And so unfortunately, Jim can only just wait to see what Batman, John Paul Batman, is going to do. But now you have Bane pay a visit over to the three guys who used to work for him in prison. Now this is Bane saying, hey, listen, I'm not going to break you guys out of here at all. And the reason why, because you guys got caught, but also because you guys failed me. But on top of that, you guys still owe me. So you're going to tell me where I can find a location of where we kept the extra venom at. And of course, they do tell him, but this really shows that this is a Bane that kind of realized that he needs more venom if he's going to be able to bring down his new bat, to bring down John Paul Valley Batman. But now we pick up with Nightwing arriving at Wayne Manor to talk to Robin. Now, Dick Grayson, he never met John Paul Valley. So to hear the idea that there is a new Batman out there, and it's not him, that is somebody else, he's kind of like, what the heck? Why didn't Bruce come to me to ask me to become the next Batman? But you had Tim tell Dick, like, hey, I heard that you two were not talking to one another, but also you were your own man, he said. He said you finally got out of his shadows, that you were out there in the world trying to do your own thing. And so with that right there, he believed that you would not even accept the idea of being Batman. And so he chose John Paul Valley. Now, this is also Tim trying to tell Dick, like, I don't know if John Paul can really be Batman, that maybe Bruce made the wrong choice. But as Dick's saying, if Bruce made the choice, then Bruce may have known that maybe it was the best choice for Gotham to have John Paul out there as the next Batman. Now, it's also Tim believing that he's at fault for what happened in John Paul Valley. The idea that John Paul became Batman, but honestly not seeing the signs that John Paul was not ready to become Batman. But again, you have Dick saying it's not your fault. Like, if Bruce decided that he will become the next Batman, then Bruce chose him. Bruce has to live with that decision, but we have to move on with our lives. And they leave. And we do see another page where we do see Bane being able to find the hidden stash of venom. And now with that stash, Homeboy is ready, or he believes he's ready for the next battle between him and Batman, John Paul Batman. But right after he was able to receive that venom, he goes over to a building where he takes out a guy that controls a electric billboard to leave a message for Batman to find and say, hey, I am ready for you. It's time for you and I to have our final battle. But getting back over to Tim goes down to Batcave to see if John Paul is still there. John Paul is not there, but he does find John Paul's sketches, and he realized that John Paul has created a brand new Batman suit, and that Batman suit is going to be used in the final battle between him and Bane. Now, the second story of this book is really more of the final battle between Bane and Batman. And so you have Bane being able to get that message out to Batman saying, hey, you know what? If you want me, come get me. I'll be here at this location. And bam, you have John Paul see that message. And next thing you know, it leads into a battle between the two characters. Now, while you have the two characters fighting against each other, the GCPD arrive. But they're just watching because the mayor says, like, hey, you know what? I love the idea of having Batman in Gotham, the idea of having a vigilante that is able to work away from the book, to be able to take down the different characters that come to Gotham terrorizing the citizens. And so for the GCPD, they're basically told, if Batman fails, that is when you step in. But if Batman's there, you don't step in. You let the man work. And so right now, John Paul is going up against Bane with his brand new Batman suit. And the battle's great. I mean, it's a beautiful battle. John Paul is giving Bane one heck of a beatdown, but at the same time, it's Bane saying, I have to get out of there. I have to leave because I am not ready for this Batman. Like, I got overconfident because I took out a Batman earlier that was physically and mentally drained. But now I'm being confronted by a new Batman who's not physically or mentally drained. A Batman who has all these new gadgets, his new armor suit to battle against me. Like, this man is properly ready to take me down. I have to leave. But for Batman, this man can't leave. This man has to be defeated right here and right now. And so you have John Paul follow Bane. The battle continues on. And then it all comes down to the final moments where everyone kind of wondering, will Batman beat down Bane to the point where he basically dies? Except you have Robin there as well too, kind of wondering the same thing, like, okay, you defeated him, let him go, and let the GCPD take him away. And so for a good moment there, it does seem like maybe John Paul might continue to beat down on Bane, who's already broken. He says, no, I'm not going to do that. You know what? I'm going to let the GCPD go ahead and take him away. And you have Bane walk away. Now, as he walks away, you have Robin there saying, you know what? Maybe you have earned the right to become Batman. Maybe you are the right choice for Gotham City. And the book ends on that note. Knightfall ends on that note right there, where we're left to wonder what is going to happen in Gotham City now with the idea of John Paul Valley being Batman. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.